settle down. Squawking Dead took a little bit of a break in order to properly cool down from a rather tense and emotional mid-season finale of Fear the Walking Dead. Okay, you got us. We finally succumbed to a collective bout of cumulative fatigue and needed a break from podcasting. The truth of the matter is, we've been going pretty strong since the first episode of The Walking Dead's 8th season, and we haven't stopped since then, 23 episodes later. It's pretty remarkable when you consider the fact that both Carol and I have 60-hour-a-week day jobs outside of this podcast and still manage to produce a weekly episode, more or less.
Shocking.
Carol has 2 beautiful children that she tends to on top of everything else. And yet, we smile.
Shocking.
Yeah. That's the first time you've broken me out of an intro. And yet we smile. Yeah, I guess so.
It's like shocking.
I guess so, Eugene. Well, and we hope that you do too. Yeah, smile. Squawking Dead is a labor of love, after all. Heavy on the labor, but it's a good kind of tired. And we feel like we're producing something that is only going to get better over time. Speaking of better, I think it's time I turned the mic over to my better half. The kimchi powder in my noodles, and the flare that lights my way in times of darkness. Carol.
That was nice, the kimchi. I was like, I get it.
It's a little spicy, a little savory, a little vinegary.
Gosh.
It's starting to not sound that good, but no, believe me, it's good.
It is good. Gosh, what an episode, man. We finally got our answers that we were looking for.
Many of them. Almost all of them. They did play around with time a little bit. I think they were trying to play a little trickery on us. Oh, yeah.
Definitely. But I have a lot of thoughts, which you and I have already kind of sort of discussed. So we'll get to it.
You are so excited. I don't know if you're still excited after all this time.
I'm still excited.
You've cooled down a bit, I think.
I've let it marinate, but I have my thoughts, and I'm very curious to see if there's any potential truth to it.
Like merit, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see. But
see if those thoughts have legs.
Yes, exactly.
So good.
Yeah, but your thoughts when you were watching it, what did you think?
So they really, really brought home the emotional attachment that many of us who've been watching from the beginning have really latched onto. We really, really, really do love these characters, and nothing has brought that out more in this episode compared to maybe the other episodes. For all the ways they've manipulated us into, or tried to throw us off our game when it comes to these classic characters, the classic Fear the Walking Dead characters, they brought it all full circle. They made sense out of a lot of things that kind of got your head scratching.
Yes.
It really brought out of us, I hope, a huge outpour of emotion and feeling for the characters that we almost thought were far gone. And really, I think that the thing that they did best in this episode was to tie in the Morgan component. It was really important that he was on this show to just show us and remind us even how he's not the only one that can fall prey to this kind of madness, to this kind of obsession for vengeance. Rick has done it in his own way. Alicia's done it we've seen now in this episode. Well, I mean, kind of, throughout the whole season. I think
a lot of characters kind of succumb to that, and then they have their turning point where they kind of look around and say, what am I doing?
Yeah, if you're lucky. That's the thing.
If you're lucky to have somebody who kind of puts a mirror in front of you, basically, and it's like,
this is you. This is
right.
This is your brain on the apocalypse.
This is you right now. Is this who you want to be?
Any questions?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, yeah, it's just so true. Every single group you either run across, or every single protagonist in their own sense goes through this, and I feel like the more virtuous your character is, the harder the fall, the more complicated the fall.
Yeah, because I think there's more depth there, rather than just like, I hate people and now I really hate people. Just saying. But I mean, if you're this virtuous,
I can't wait to see you post-apocalypse.
I know.
Oh, I really don't like this person. Oh, I really don't like this. You'd be like the villain in a Walking Dead episode.
I would be a very complex one. There's a what is it that Maggie Grace says, her character Althea? There's a lot of layers. She's got a lot of layers.
I have a lot of layers, Althea. Right?
A lot of layers.
All right, Alicia.
There we go. A lot of layers. Just saying.
Oh man, and the worst part about it is that I would probably fall right in the middle because my outrage is kind of contained. I'm like, I get you. I get either side of you.
Just remember, insanity now. No, No, I'm sorry. Serenity now, insanity later. So you want to have that balance.
Yeah, I'm investing in sanity for later. so got my bases covered. If I break things down equally throughout every episode and be balanced throughout, I'm hoping that carries me through the apocalypse right now.
There you go.
So yeah, I got everything in balance, right?
Balance.
Yeah, but then you never know, those guys end up being the real maniacs, is the calculating soulless maniacs. So watch out for me.
Remember the governor? The governor was like, wasn't his character originally like an insurance agent or something like? He was something like that. Some sort of like super white collar corporate America sort of thing.
Yeah, suit
and just ruthless.
Or like blue collar, but like just barely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
There you go. And Simon being the mail carrier.
Yes.
That's just what I think.
I could see that 100%.
Yes, your mail's here.
Yes.
Chewing that gum, right? Meter. I said meter maid, didn't I?
No. You said mail.
Was it mail carrier or meter maid?
No, you said mail character. And I could totally see mail carrier.
Yeah, I see it now better. I know I said meter maid, but now I'm like thinking, all right. The mail, specifically the mail deliverer, right? Like,
yes.
Comes to your door, gives you the package, like, hey, how's it going?
He's just that kind of character actor, you know? And I love him for it.
And he's the opposite in real life. He's like very spiritually inspirational quote of the day kind of guy.
When I think of like somebody like Stephen Ogg, inspirational quote of the day, it's kind of on par with, you ever seen that website, Skeletor's Love? Oh, you should look it up.
No, but okay, go for it. Yeah.
So basically, it's all these positive affirmations with memes of Skeletor.
Yes. I've seen the memes. I just didn't know there was a website dedicated to it.
It's dedicated 100% to it.
I don't know if I've told you this, but every time I steal a French fry from somebody, I do the Skeletor laugh. I just go, I stole your fry.
I used to love it, man.
Every single time, though, it's like without question, and people will wonder, what is this laugh? Why did you do that?
They don't connect it to Skeletor.
They don't. They can't. It's starting to age.
Oh God, I was gonna say, if it's beyond their age.
Yeah, but I still do it. Nothing stops Skeletor.
Yeah, like I'm still gonna do it regardless. Oh God. Yeah, actually, now you remind me. I need to print out some of those affirmations and make you
for work. Okay.
Yes.
I gotta start doing that in my office. I miss doing that.
Yeah.
Anywho, so you imagine his affirmations tacked onto the Skeletor memes?
When I think of like his, like, let's say Instagram and his positive affirmations, to me they're on par with Skeletor's Love, because you've got this guy who kind of comes across as kind of creepy, you know. No, I love Stephen Ogg, and I love him for that reason. Like, he is on par to me, honestly, as a Jack Nicholson. Like, Jack Nicholson is an amazing actor.
That's a very high compliment. Yeah,
that's a very high compliment, but I do. But Jack Nicholson, like, he just has this look. He has this sort of look where it's just a very devilish look. Like, when you talk about a Joker's grin, like, that's Jack Nicholson. And it doesn't change the fact that he's an incredible actor with an amazing range of depth, but he just has this sort of look about him, you know, that is very mischievous, you know?
Yeah.
So I look at Stephen Ogg in a similar way. Like, he could be the nicest man on the face of the planet, but he just has this look about him.
You can't escape his roles. I mean, his roles kind of determine the way you perceive him in the future. So I get what you're saying. I really do.
Yeah, Trevor.
Exactly. Oh, man.
We're not clear in the first scene when they show Madison. We finally see Madison. We're not sure where we are in the timeline.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Did she escape the stadium? Because you can tell, like, she's come from somewhere and she's looking for somebody. Like, she seems kind of like, you know, exhausted or winded or whatever. So you can't tell necessarily, like, where we are. And then, you know, she comes across who we end up realizing is Althea. And then we really start to think that this is after what happened at the stadium, perhaps.
Right. Or maybe, right. I didn't think that, but I was like,
but they do try to, like, take you down that road a little bit, like, kind of throw you off, essentially.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think they totally throw you off as to where this is in time. For real.
Yeah.
You could have and it's interesting that you thought it could have been the future or the current or the present or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where they just kind of really posed it in a way that really it could have been at any point. So you really weren't too sure, like, when exactly did this happen, you know?
Right. And the reason why I say that's interesting is because I didn't think that at all. And it's interesting because our initial impressions were so different, you know, and that it could have been, which is so effective. It throws you properly off your game, so you're left wondering, wait, huh?
Right.
They knew each other, or wait, they didn't, or no,
right?
Or they're meeting now, or is this way after? I thought it was somewhere between this and that's actually what I was thinking. Was this was sometime between the fall, and between the time that that she meets Alicia and them on the road.
Okay,
that's what I thought.
So you thought it was somewhere in between that time?
Yeah, exactly. And so, because that's where we were, sort of, right? I thought they would meet in the middle somewhere.
That's what I thought. I thought the same thing. I thought that the stadium had fallen already, but we hadn't gotten to the interaction of Althea and Morgan and all of them yet. I thought that this was sometime in between that period. So I thought the same. I agree. I thought the same thing. And then obviously things get clarified. But I did think, okay, this is perhaps during this time. Either way, I thought that this was after post-fallen stadium.
What's so important about the use of setting, you know, light and dark, warm and cold. I remember when I made this observation when just after, I think this third episode, the one where Nick dies, it's nighttime and they're on the way to burying Nick. And it was one of those things where it's neither warm nor cool. It's kind of the absence of color. And it sets the mood for everybody. And the mood for everybody at that time was Nick was lost. Nick was gone. Everybody's in mourning, night. And here we are with Madison. Apparently, we find out later, is way in the past. This was before the stadium ever was a twinkle in Madison's eye. And so she's at her lowest point. She's in mourning. She's lost her kids. Even though it's night, though, you have the campfire. You have glimpses of intense blue because it's dark, and then and with the warmth of firelight and stuff. So it plays back and forth. You know, and I just love how it's that in between. You know, we're in between. You know, despair and hope. Really, on the line, this chaotic line. I love it. I love the way they just blows me away how much work they put into that.
Yeah, no, I think it was very effective, very artistic also.
Oh yeah, let's put it this way: it sets the mood. So, and it's becoming very apparent that Althea is kind of like this chaotic good. I think she kind of turns Madison into that chaotic good as well. This unrelenting chaotic good, you know, where she's willing to do absurd things to get people on the good side of things.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what you see Althea do. She really risks her life more often than not for the stupidity of trying to interview people.
Yeah.
And yet it works. I think more often than not, I feel like Althea has met really good people, and she kind of can spot them out, and she's willing to play with that. You know, willing to bank on the fact that she's going to survive a given situation. Yeah. And what's good about how we met her initially, though, is that it's clear also that she's come across people that weren't really that good, like Leland and the Pilferers, and she knows how to deal with them. Yeah. So it almost sets the stage for like, okay, you need to pay attention to what we're showing you, because you may think Althea is just dumb. Like her as a character in the show is kind of dumb. But we're trying to subtly tell you, I mean, we're doing this on purpose in a way. If you really look at the situations that she's been in, including this one with Madison, she's not that dumb. No. She's kind of like a Jesus character in a way, where she'll put herself in dangerous situations.
Yeah, no, I could see that. That's a fair comparison.
And then it turns out okay for some reason.
Yeah, she's scrappy. Yeah. She's very scrappy.
Like Jesus. Yeah. Except instead of ninja moves, she's got her camera. She's got her wits. She knows how to manipulate conversation. She gets out of binds. Yeah,
yes, I mean, but what is it? She says like how many times she's been zip tied and to like escape. I mean, that is kind of like Jesus. He's also able to that. Damn catchphrases, yeah.
So that's going to be on our action figure, by the way. You know how many times I've been zip tied? Quote.
Exactly. You know how many times I've been zip tied. That is going to be her catchphrase.
So Althea is filming.
Yes, she is.
The SWAT van, and they're in the Diamond,
which is overrun
by crispy walkers.
I know.
Or crispy infected, as they say.
They're like
in this
charred.
series.
Yeah, they call them the infected, right?
Yeah.
They're all charred. Ooh.
Charred barbecued walkers.
John Dory still in the SWAT vehicle, injured.
Yep. Incapacitated.
And
it's pretty much the way we mentioned on the sneak peek. He's incapacitated. He's warning Morgan not to go. He says, I dragged you into this, and Morgan's saying, you dragged me out of something. Telling telling Naomi at the time, don't make me go out looking for you again, which I love. I just love that line. It just bears repeating.
No, my favorite line from him this episode was when he finds out her real name.
You just couldn't wait for that one, could you?
I do love that. I thought it was so sweet.
Yeah, I can't help it. Just reminded me, it's June. It's my favorite month.
It's just he's just so charming. It's very sweet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, June and John.
Oh yeah.
Sitting in the tree.
Oh.
KISS. Shut your mouth.
It's adorable.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. True story. They're adorable.
True story. It's adorable.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, all hell is breaking loose.
Yeah. I mean, they're surrounded. It's looking pretty rough.
Looking pretty dire.
I mean, who knows if they're going to be able to get in and out.
Did Luciana have a freaking rocket launcher?
Yes.
I'm like, what the hell?
So I want to make that clear. She had an Abraham Ford style RPG.
Yeah, and my thing is that, I mean, we've come a long way.
My thing is that, no.
Well, here's my problem with the whole scenario is I don't understand, and this is especially in light of when we find out what happens, the level of rage directed towards our new group.
Yeah.
That's what I don't necessarily understand. I'm like, if you have this level of rage towards the vultures, I get it. I understand. I get it. But these guys, I'm like, why are you making it a mission to like blow these people up? I mean, I just don't know. I have a hard time.
You can't comprehend the level of dire, desperate destruction for vengeance, this desire for vengeance. Do you feel that way afterwards too, though?
What, after it was all said and done? Like if they still have, I think that
knowing the reasons and stuff.
Knowing the reasons why. I mean, knowing the reasons why, I understand their feelings of rage, but directed rage. I understand, like, okay, we got to find the vultures and we have to exact revenge on them because they did this. Okay, I understand that, but I don't necessarily. I think it's misplaced anger to
go after Naomi. You're saying, or
or Naomi, Althea. I'm like, you guys, like these guys were not affiliated with the vultures, especially in light of when they had the altercation with Mel and them at the racetrack. John Dory and Morgan, and they didn't have anything to do with the vultures. So I just think it's a little bit of misplaced anger to be sort of like, we got to take them out. I'm like, well, why? Like, I would be the person of the group that would be like raising their hand and saying like, okay, I have a problem with that.
Carol here. Why?
Excuse me, why are we going to do that?
Because they killed my brother and they killed my mother. Well,
okay, you want to kill Charlie? Fine. Like, I get that.
Yeah, it's rough.
I understand that. Fine.
I think a lot of that has to come from the journey too.
Maybe they're just so disgruntled at this point and so shell shocked.
Oh man, they've been through so much. They've made it through. I want to say more horrible situations than this, and yet you feel like you're almost there. You've almost made it, and after every single doubt that they've had to exorcise, that it comes to this point and she's taken out trying to protect them. Yeah, it's almost unjust. She herself has had to do so much in her life. Like, think about all the sacrifices that your ancestors have made to try to get you to where you are today, and then imagine all the horrors that they've had to face through, and then to be taken out by something so insignificant. It just feels unjust.
No, I understand that. I mean, I understand. It was just one of those, man, are we really going to waste that RPG on these people? Like, I mean, is that kind of necessary?
I think it was really more to get to Naomi, because the show makes it very clear that all they want is Naomi. They want every single last one of them done. And so the question marks, there's a question mark on Charlie. I mean, obviously there is a doubt. Luciana does not shoot at Charlie at the end. She does step back from the from the previous episode, from that brink, but she is more than happy to go after Naomi. And what is interesting is that from their point of view, they don't have the luxury of seeing the behind the scenes with John. They don't even have the luxury of knowing, except for maybe Strand, knowing what Naomi's been through. Was it the FEMA center, whatever it's called?
Yeah, that FEMA kind of outpost.
Strand does, but at the same time, he's the one who kind of gave it to her on the way there. He's well aware of what is possible for her, and I think maybe that's why he would probably go that far. Is that not only did you backslide, but you backslided so far that you ran out on us, and you made it happen so that the place could get overrun.
Yeah, no, I do understand what you're saying. That is justified. And I mean the perception too.
Yeah.
The perception that she was in cahoots with them or something, when in reality that wasn't really the case.
Oh yeah, and that's the worst part, is that you went right to their arms, that kind of thing, you know. And then after you hear about what she's been through, how long it took her to actually get to finally like give out. You know, it took her like a couple days running straight, and then, you know, her almost dying on the side of the road before the vultures pick Naomi up.
Right, exactly. I
kind of get it. You know, she from their point of view, she's run out. She's tried to escape a couple times, even with Madison. And it's like, you know, we went out on such a limb for you. We gave you all the chances in the world to be different, and you could even say that, oh yeah, she's just gonna fly. And we were saying this throughout the season too, by the way. Oh, she's gone. She wouldn't stick around. You know, even though by near the end it seemed like she would. You know, they're still in the back of our mind would be kind of like, oh, she's gone. She left.
Yeah, no, you are correct.
And it's really difficult for us too, who've watched the show, to imagine, because it's kind of like what we're gonna, on a smaller scale, what we're gonna kind of have to deal with Rick. Depending on how that all goes down.
God, I know.
You know, you could hope for the similar kind of exit.
We need to have this different podcast, by the way, just on Walking Dead news.
No, why? Because we can go into streams of information.
Well, yeah. Sorry.
Well, I mean, we have a break, so
we do.
We can always get into it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I'm just saying.
Would love a shorter podcast for once. We could do mini podcasts.
It would be short. It wouldn't be like long, but just saying.
Well, we can do another episode this week or next week.
That's true.
Just dedicated to the Walking Dead news.
The world is our oyster.
Yes, open for us.
Precise.
Yeah, it's looking pretty grim. You know, an RPG hits the side of the damn thing, and the door merely falls off.
Yeah, that was kind of funny, actually.
A tank within a tank within a bank vault,
and then it just falls off like burp.
What does he call? I wanted to actually see what he actually calls her. Okay. When Alicia finally has Charlie and Althea tries to get her to calm down, you know, I would have punched you in the cooch. Yes. I'm sorry. That was. I was dying when she said that.
It was fabulous. It was awesome.
Perfect. All right, but
it's called good writing.
Yeah. Well, I love that she became comic foil. Like, I think they just started seeing, okay, she's got these snappy comebacks. Let's keep going with this.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and this other line. When the RPG hits the side of the door and the door falls off, she goes to Alicia standing over with a gun. Want to help me with this door?
Yeah. She has a good sense of humor about it.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Again, kind of like a Jesus line, honestly.
Yeah, it is very much a Jesus line.
Like, other people who piss in their pants, just kind of like, I'll get out of this one.
Yeah, it's like, okay, this one's going to be a little trickier. But all right.
Ninja moves.
She's scrappy, that one.
Punched you in the cooch. I didn't even write this line down, but when the whole thing when they were shooting out there and Althea's hiding behind the top, and that this kind of goes to the idea of they really just want Naomi. They're kind of shooting at Althea, but really they just want Naomi, and they're even appealing to her. They say, hey, if you come back on our side, you know, you don't have to be a part of this. And you know, she mentions the layers comment, like, I got layers, girl. And
lots of layers.
Yeah, and gives her a way out. And then even Morgan putting himself in front of Naomi near the end. It's kind of like he knows that they don't want to hurt people. It's like he knows these people's hearts. He kind of knows what they've been through. Doesn't know exactly. But I remember when he was trying to make it clear to Nick, it doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter what's happened. You get to decide your future. You know, you get to write your story. And that really got him. So he kind of has an idea of like, they've been through something. They're good people, but they're in a situation where they can't get out of, and they feel like they have to do that with Lud.
Yeah.
And it became very clear to him, perfectly done in this show. I feel like I know we're bouncing around, but simply put, when they finally do, I don't even want to go through the whole thing with John and the cool walkie-talkie trick, and they didn't come out of the thing, and Althea was trying to call them out, even though Alicia she's like saying, hey, call them out because I'm here and I'm gonna fuck them up. But that whole thing, I mean, that's suspenseful, that's action, whatever. It's great. great. It's kind of cool. It's something you had to be there for to watch. It's really less fun when somebody has to explain it to you on a podcast. But the coolest thing about this whole scene, it's funny how I can really just sum up the present in just so little, aside from after Morgan, is the Morgan scene with Alicia.
Yes.
And that whole confrontation is so nerve-wracking because even after Alicia sees the Amina video, the Wilhelmina video,
yes,
with her mother in the past, she still wants to go after Naomi, but you do sense that there's a bit of not holding back. There's a bit of like it's automatic now. She's kind of on autopilot. She's on a kind of like Morgan. He's on autopilot.
Yeah.
And when she finally confronts Morgan, it's this moment, and Morgan steps in front of Naomi. He's like, "You're gonna have to go through me. I'm too crazy to back down now. I'm too crazy to not do this.
Yeah.
I've made it past so much, and my life is not going to end with your bullet because you're not that kind of person.
Yeah.
Killing me would be cold blood. It would be going too far, and you're not capable of that."
Yeah. And eventually she kind of drops the weapon.
Yeah, she relents. Now, what did you think of that scene? Because I know that some people can look at that scene and think, "Oh, this is kind of hokey." This is. I thought it was particularly beautiful because of that one line where he mentions, "I stepped aside for your brother. I am not stepping aside for you."
I mean, I figured Morgan was going to get through just because of the fact that this girl is inherently not a seasoned fighter. This is not by nature who she is. So,
or like a hardened fighter, you mean?
A hardened fighter, yeah. This is not who she is. So Morgan, with his boundless wisdom, is fully capable of just kind of getting through and just kind of pointing out what we already know, which is like, hey, this isn't who you are.
Yeah, killing is too easy. Not killing is way harder.
Who said that?
You kind of get that impression from the way he was dealing with Henry in that whole scenario, and you do kind of get that impression from Carl when I think he kind of said that too when he was talking to Rick and talking to Negan. Killing is easy, but stopping and is the hardest part. It has to stop in order for you to stop having to worry about dying.
Yep, absolutely.
And moving on and having something more. So there's a lot of elements of that. That's kind of what Morgan is playing with when he's talking to Alicia. It's got to stop somewhere. There's got to be something for after. It can't just be a cycle of revenge and making the rest of the world pay for something that happened.
Much like the way Carl thought.
Yep. Yep. And I just love that. See, Madison got that. And I love how her message, she's trying to, from the past, reach them in the future. Even after I'm gone, you've got to remember this is already in you. It's already in you to survive. It's already in you to... You've done the surviving bit. Now it's time to carry the goodwill bit. The bit that sees the good in others and saves them. Especially yourself.
I agree.
Honestly, that really sums up the present scenes.
Yeah.
What really breaks open this episode is the distant past scene.
Yes.
And then when you get to the end and they explain what happened at the diamond.
Yes.
It's kind of like the epilogue.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, the epilogue that explains everything.
Exactly.
We kind of explained the whole tripwire thing in the beginning with Madison. Yes. Althea does kind of get one over on her, but not before Madison still has the gun pointed to her, which kind of just proves that Madison's just a motherfucking badass.
She is, which is why I still hold on to my theory, but we'll get there.
Oh, yeah, we'll get there. So the one thing I did observe was that Madison was really looking rough in that scene.
Which is why I wasn't sure where we were in the timeline, because she was.
Yeah, she was in a bad place. We'd always assumed that she had changed right after the dam broke. Like, oh, she finds a village, and then she fixes up Strand, and Alicia, and Nick, and all these problems, but then you realize that it really wasn't that. But I think she was just really trying to power through and keep the family, quote-unquote, together, yeah. And and I'm sure having to take care of Nick, who clearly, when she finally reunites with her family after the Althea thing, he clearly has like some sort of real bad PTSD.
Yeah, for sure.
You thought it was pretty bad when you saw him in the second episod, but it was way worse. I barely could hang on. And probably doing way worse without her, which kind of really brings home the dialogue that he and her had throughout the first half of the season. The walls, they make me feel like I don't have to be that person outside of them, and then him finally bringing it home, just the episode beforehand, that episode 7, how he finally admits it really wasn't the walls, it wasn't one of the walls of the stadium, it was you. And that isn't brought home more than when she finally reunites with Nick and she holds him, and you understand in that moment it's not the walls, it's her. When I'm around you, I feel like I'm my best self. I'm a better person. It's really, and you know what, as soon as I see that hugging scene, I'm reminded of that scene with him at the diamond just before the vultures come in with the walkers, and him just standing real straight and tall with that mug of water in his hand, and he has his arm around his mom, and he's really thankful, and he's just proud and standing up strong and straight. I just love that scene because it's like empowered. He's not debilitated by his PTSD anymore.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like those decisions were so deliberate too. Like to choose him because he doesn't really stand up all that straight. Really, he kind of has this backward slouch thing going on sometimes.
Yeah,
like where his belly's out, sort of. I don't know.
You're right. Actually, that's true.
It's like his lower back is on a swivel, so he's either crouching forward or something, looking kind of creeping, his shoulders creeping forward, or he's kind of sitting back, kind of just going, "Hey guys." In the past, she has Althea in the binds, and Althea gets out of the binds, but Madison still whoops her ass.
Yeah.
And we really get to the tapes too, because we get to the tapes before that too, when she's in her binds. Althea's in her binds, and it's worth mentioning the whole the Eugene and Abraham tape, the Doctor and Abe.
That made me so happy.
Did you see that at first?
No, I did not see that at first.
No, I didn't either.
I didn't. I caught it upon watching it again and hearing about it, and then when I saw it, I was like, oh, Abe and the Doctor, Abraham Ford and Dr. Eugene Porter.
Right.
And they admitted that on Talking Dead that was deliberate.
I think they had to too, because I don't know if everybody saw that really.
Yeah, I don't think everybody saw that. Side note, apparently there has been talk about the little vignettes during Walking Dead, or like Red Machete and all of that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, okay.
So they're talking about doing similar things like that, those little vignettes, but instead of it being kind of similar in the vein of Red Machete, where you kind of see that it is a backstory of the Red Machete, and we see Joe from the Claimers.
Right.
Again, they're talking about doing stuff like that, but with some of our old characters that maybe we didn't see enough of, or that are deceased, like some backstory kind of stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
I was hoping when they did the crossover, and nothing against Morgan, but in my mind, I loved Abraham. Abraham. Yeah. So I was really, and because I know that Abraham and Eugene and Rosita came from Houston, in my mind, I was like, okay, this kind of makes sense. Obviously that didn't happen, but there is talk that there might be something along the lines that they might do, so we can see
some of those particular vignettes, you think?
Yeah.
Or those tapes maybe even?
Could be. Yeah. Possibly.
Yeah, I see that. I wouldn't want it to be like an overt thing, but I would want it to be like, oh, she stumbles upon a tape with a working battery and a VCR or something, and they see this excerpt or something. Or they watch them being taped or something on the side of the road. Oh, look, somebody's getting interviewed. In the apocalypse? Yeah. All right, moving on. Well, and Fear the Walking Dead had some companion web series / commercial break series too. They had The Flight, I think, from the first season, I think it was, or the second season, something like that. And then they had, I think, another series in season 3, at the beginning of season 3, and it was the whole border scene with the guy from the first season, one of the soldiers from the first season, I think it was. It's funny because I want to rewatch that and see if there's anything that links up with the series now. And yeah, I'm curious to see where that would go, because I want to see those linearly, because you kind of, the problem with having them in the commercial breaks is that they become forgettable.
Yeah.
Like you remember that scene and you're like, oh, okay, I remember. Oh, I see where we are. And then you don't watch it, and then you move on. You're focused on the series.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you see them in succession, okay, now I care about this. This makes some sort of sense.
Right.
So there's some other things though too. I noticed that some of the tapes were labeled Jameson and Killeen, Texas, and those, by the way, were on the Vultures maps. Those particular cities were on the Vultures map, and I'm wondering to myself if that has any foreshadowing for Althea.
Nothing is a coincidence in this universe.
Yeah, a lot of I think there were more tapes with some of those cities, but those in particular were mentioned in the map. So I'm wondering to myself, did she hit up those places after the Vultures, before the Vultures? Is her relationship tied in any way with them at all? No, I don't think so, but it makes me wonder.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So Madison does knock Althea the F out.
Yes.
And then takes her video camera and cassettes in the hopes of trying to find clues as to where her children are. And again, she's really rough. She's really desperate. She's been trying for a very long time to find them and just cannot. She has a walkie, hasn't found them. And I'm sure in this world with no power, I don't know how she would be able to continue to charge her walkie. So, I'm sure she's trying to use it sparingly.
I would have to assume, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like needle in Texas. Texas is so big.
Yeah.
So big. When you really start thinking about how big Texas is, it's really a wonder how she found them in the first place.
Oh, yeah.
Althea does manage to catch up with her.
She does catch up with her and is very anxious to make sure all her tapes are in order.
Just as before, when she was almost freaking out when the lockbox was open in previous episodes, and then with Alicia rifling through them in the present. See, and that's the thing. Normally, if this was the apocalypse, Althea would have just shot the person who took her stuff and moved on.
Right.
But no, they're both playing this game of being really good people, but really capable. And it really does tell us a lot about both Madison, you know, the dark, you know, the rough person, and Althea, the capable, the charitable person. Like, because all she wants is this interview. She wants her story. She doesn't want anything from her, really. She just wants to know about her.
Yep, she just wants her story.
And so it's kind of interesting to put these two together. You know, this person who's willing to do anything for her family, for the good of her family, protect them, keep them safe, give them the tools to survive, to have a future more than anything else. And then you have Althea, who's just this capable person who just wants a story to hold this altruism, this high ideal in the apocalypse. You know, so they're both fighting for something more from the very start.
Yeah.
And both of them refuse to kill the other person, even though that's an option that's on the table. It's kind of interesting to see that, you know, Madison's all tied up, got nowhere to go. She's desperate. She's hopeless. She kind of just leans in to defeat at that point. And it's not all that bad. She's not dead, which is a good thing after all this, after being caught again. Finally, after being tied up, Madison is leaning into her defeat.
I think that this is the point where she kind of goes into the story about the bird, kind of illustrate her kids and their, I guess, optimistic altruism.
Right, how optimistic they could be.
Yeah, and how she needed to find them and find a place where they can live their lives with that sort of mentality.
Right, to foster that before the outside world takes that away from them.
Takes that away from them, yeah.
Here's the interesting thing is, the Madison that we're seeing right now is just before the crazy, hopeful, optimistic, charitable Madison we see later.
Yeah, because this is basically, we eventually kind of realized that this is post-dam, not post-stadium.
Right. Yeah, and that's the interesting part, is that she's saying right here is that I'm afraid what I'm trying to find is impossible. And lo and behold, she latches onto it for dear life and makes it gospel. And everybody's praying at that altar. So it's just very interesting to see how different things are.
Yes.
Pre and post. So, but yeah, and then she launches into the story about how they have this place that they stayed on vacation, and Nick and Alicia are nursing this bird that they found injured back to health, a bird that hit their window, which is usually a bad omen.
Is it really?
Yeah, yeah.
What does it mean usually?
It usually means death is coming to you.
Oh.
Yeah, that's heavy, isn't it? But even though Madison herself was completely doubtful, like, oh, this bird does not look good. And here's the thing, here's the best part, is that you could tell that by now, your perception of Alicia and your perception of Nick is crazy different. And I think the show kind of had a pulse on the people's reaction to the way they've been behaving throughout this, the first half of the season. It doesn't really hit home until Madison really describes the story, because I think one of the things that we have to kind of keep our eye on the ball on is that Alicia has been and always has been determined, you know, a determined person. Now, this could be to the negative, but it could also be to the positive. And Nick's sensitivity, his feelings, his empathy towards others and their point of view, even though it's strange.
Right.
These two things that Madison describes in the story, you know, Alicia's determination to will this bird to live, and Nick's sensitivity, his desire to protect this bird. With her pragmatism, you know, she's thinking this bird ain't gonna live, but the bird whom they named Amina lived anyway because the kids did not give up.
Yeah, they didn't give up on the bird.
And she realized then and there that this is something that she has to preserve, and it's something that she did later on, you know, in her early days and later on in life, you know, with their father, with the death of their father, or at least Nick's father, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it just goes to show how far she was, you know, willing to go to not only protect their lives, but to protect that part of them that she's been so desperate to find. And then when they find the stadium, it's game over. It's great.
Yeah.
You've saved the princess.
Yeah, essentially.
So she explains the story, and then she goes on to finally tell her what happened. They got separated, clearing a big space outside of El Paso, and, you know, she cuts her loose, and Althea cuts her loose and gives her food and arms, and it just goes goes to show that, with a little bit of courtesy and a little bit of best intentions, you don't get the best intentions automatically, but there's the potential there, right?
Yeah.
And basically, it's kind of like Althea kind of doesn't give her a choice almost. But at the same time, after Madison leans in and finally gives up her story and says what's been going on, Althea lives up to her word. She doesn't kill her after giving her story. She doesn't let her go. She gives her food, she gives her guns, kind of like a down payment. I want your story to work out.
Absolutely.
And Madison moves on, and she sees their truck outside of a motel finally. And what's cool is you get to see the 3 clicks. Do you remember the 3 clicks on the walkie?
3 clicks on the walkie.
Yeah. Remember the sign that Madison used when she found Naomi and she was in trouble, and she clicked on the walkie 3 times to signal them to come to her direction? She uses that when she finds their truck, first of all, to make sure it's them, because somebody could have stolen the truck. So I love how that kind of connects. It's a callback. They have this signal and they use it again. So she uses the 3 clicks, and then on the other side they go, "Mom," so they know it's her.
Right.
And she goes, "Is that your truck?" It's like, "Yeah."
Exactly.
I love it. Good callback. It really connects the universe a little bit better.
Yeah, it brings it all together.
Yeah, and then of course they move on, and they pull up to a clearing behind, like a short distance behind the diamond, and she kind of spotted it on the way to picking them up, and she's like, "Yeah, I want to show these guys. And not only do I want to use this place for us, it's kind of big. It's like I want to use this as a place to bring others in, and this is strictly, and it's just this weird thing where because of Althea's generosity, that maybe there are people in this world that live for bigger ideals, for more than just the here and now, for something more. She just takes that and runs. Like it's like somebody gave her the same kind of optimism that her kids have, and just pays it forward.
Yeah.
And it really carries them out. It carries them through this whole episode with the diamond. They're like their whole, and they've survived well for like a year plus.
Yeah, that is a long time.
Yeah, I mean, how many people get to have that break? I mean, think about All Out War. That stuff took like only a matter of months, like 3-4 months max, and like they got a whole year of peace, and then bringing other people in, getting to know them, and then having 38 people, 40, 48, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then all of them died.
It's a big chunk.
It all comes full circle, and the reason why Madison is the way she is because of Althea.
Yes.
Like somebody we meet, and it's just such a stranger.
Very interesting.
Yeah. So there's one thing that Althea talks about. So it not only is a good way of telling us the kind of person she is, one of her many layers.
Right.
But it's also a good tie-in for what we see in this entire season. And that's the theme of saying the truth out loud even once.
Yes.
Okay, and she goes into the whole backstory of Twisted Round, that warlord in I think it was Africa, and she goes into the story about this one guy who goes around this village. He tries to taunt the villagers, bilk them for protection money, all that stuff. And she talks to the villagers. They're not willing to say or do anything. And then she finally gets to one villager, finds out that this guy, his whole ability to keep everybody down is all but nothing. And then that one person that finally admits that, says it out loud once, it spreads through the village like wildfire, and this guy loses all his power. And it's the power of announcing the truth just once. And throughout this season so far, you've got guys like John Dory who'll say it like it is.
Yes.
Do not hold back from saying the truth out loud, even if it's messy, even if it just doesn't make sense, like platypus. And guys like Morgan who are willing to finally admit that, hey, you got me out of something. I'm willing to kind of put my cards on the table, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then you get guys like that on those extremes, but then you guys have people in the middle, like Naomi admitting to John that she lost her child. Saying it out loud makes it real.
Yeah.
It brings it home. And then Strand admitting that he is a shitty person to Cole. Saying these things out loud, to people who you're afraid of admitting your quote-unquote real self to. Even like him going after Madison, trying to get her to tell him, why did you save me all those times? And finding out that, through talking about it and finally getting to the moment where he actually shows his cards, not only once, but twice. Saving Naomi from the walkers in the FEMA center. And then also, as we find out later, saving Alicia, I think it was, from a burning walker. Putting his hand in the fire, and now having instead of a shitty pebble to remind him of how shitty he is, having like a burnt hand to remind him how he's capable of greatness. shittiness.
Yeah.
You know, which is interesting. It's just like you go from one reminder of how shitty you are to a permanent reminder of how awesome you are.
Yeah.
You know, or how awesome you could be. You know, I think it's like empowering instead of like looking at yourself like as a victim, as like this walking cliche.
Yeah, no, that's true.
You know, you've turned yourself into a hero. So and this is all from like saying the truth out loud, if only once. Mm-hmm. So I just love how this ties everything together. There's so many themes you could attribute to this season of Fear the Walking Dead, but the truth, saying it out loud once, you know, even if nobody's going to hear it, to a microphone and a camera. And that's the thing. It ties it all home, because when Madison has his interview with Althea, Alicia in her darkest moment, you know, with her mom not echoing in her ears anymore on the day-to-day in the stadium, hears that and sees that echo from the past, is able to finally snap out of it just enough for Morgan to kind of get that chink in the armor and get her to lay her arms down.
Yeah.
And see, that's why I always wonder about how there's some people who just criticize the move to do these time jumps. And I tell them it's not just about the time jumps. It's about making it, holding back enough and giving you enough to keep watching, and then weaving a really, really clever, not only story, but a theme.
Yeah.
A story is one thing, and eventually you tie up all the threads and then you kind of care. But to be able to weave like a theme, you know, to weave like an overall like Aesop's fable out of the whole thing is something huge.
Yeah, I agree.
It's more than you kind of get out of The Walking Dead in a way.
Yeah.
Or at least at the last 2 seasons or something.
Yeah, I mean...
you don't get much meaning out of it. I mean, at the end you start to, but...
But yeah, we definitely are lacking in meaning in The Walking Dead. We don't have that kind of... Like, we did, interestingly enough, I think that they're trying to set the stage and try to get everybody, like, on board with Daryl being, like, the leading man, because they were showing a marathon, I think, on Sunday. That was just Daryl episodes.
Daryl and Merle, right?
Daryl and Merle. But
Daryl.
But there was some quality dialogue in some of those older episodes. There was some good writing and some depth to the characters and relationships. I mean, Daryl and Merle had a very complicated relationship, and it had depth to it. That episode when Daryl finds out that Merle, you know, died and is a walker. I mean, that was that was.
Did you watch the marathon? That's a bigger question.
No, I didn't, because I was at a bar for the World Cup, so it's like I didn't actually. Yeah, I didn't. I didn't see.
That was all a Sunday, right? Am I wrong?
That was all Sunday. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But I knew it was going on, and I was like, man, they are getting everybody hyped up for Daryl as the leading man. But there was that, and there were also like episodes with Beth.
Right.
We also had a lot of, you know, there was some good writing there. I'm hoping that we'll get back to some of that. I mean, they keep saying that they will, so we'll see. But
yeah. Well, actually, and to further that point, they brought back Angela Kang. Yeah. Angela Kang,
who I think wrote the episode of with Daryl and Beth, where it was just the two of them in that house. I forget what was the title of that episode, but
the Bonnie and Clyde type episode.
Yeah,
the house and the store and that whole thing.
That was the introduction of the weird like McGrady hospital, because at the end of that episode is where Beth gets kidnapped by you know, a car with like a ambulance symbol.
Right.
That was such a weird storyline though.
Right.
Hospital thing.
Great though, because you got to see some tender moments. You get to finally have that one moment with Carol and Daryl or something. I think that was the episode where you thought you would see something but you didn't get it.
Yeah, and it was the same with Beth.
Which is
that
good.
Episode with Beth. I mean, and I appreciate that. I don't need you to kind of like give me some gratuitous love scene for the sake of whatever, you know?
To be like a trope, like a cliche.
Yeah, Daryl and Carol's relationship is more complex than that, and maybe there was some sort of interest there in Beth, but it definitely wasn't something that fully developed or got the opportunity to fully develop.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it ends up feeling more like little sister, big sister, almost. Not quite mother, I would even say. Yeah,
I don't think that they've really given him anybody in his age range that it would be, not that it would be believable, that you could say, okay.
Well, shit, get Diane Kruger on the show.
Well, this show better work out because he's got a little one to feed now. So,
I think he's got enough merch.
yeah, I guess he's good. He should be good.
Yeah. Oh man, so good.
You realize he's 50?
No,
he's like 49.
Oh man, wow,
that's a good 49. Because I've seen other people where they're like, oh, I'm 44. I'm like, man, that's a hard 44. If you're 44, I'm 22. Like, just saying.
Wow, that's harsh.
I literally said that to my mom yesterday. We were watching something on TV, and this guy,
she said something?
No, this guy like on some reality show, and he was talking about how he's 44, and I was like, I don't know about that.
You have not been taking good care of yourself, 44.
You haven't been moisturizing. I don't know.
Does your body always squirt lace? I mean, come on. You could be any more doily, dusty looking.
Oh, God.
Boy.
But Norman Reedus is damn near 50, which is crazy.
It definitely changes my perspective on him in a way.
I give him credit for... It changed my perspective. When I read the article about him and Dan Kruger and having a kid, and they said his age, and I was like, holy crap.
Should you be having kids?
I mean,
at your age?
It's like, man, you were done. You just had a kid that graduated like 18 and everything, and now it's like back to the drawing board. Oh, man.
We're starting from the beginning.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's like, I give him credit because, all the stunts that he does and everything, they're not easy. And to my understanding, he's very active with all of that,
Hands-on?
Hands-on, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not easy.
No, not at his age.
No. Wouldn't be easy at my age.
Oh,
so I can't imagine at his age.
I have this really, it's almost like a prediction that I feel like it's going to happen, is that during the filming he's going to get injured.
Oh God, can you imagine?
I can. That's the thing. It's I feel like it's almost inevitable, like that there's this pressure on him now. And
I know it is. Jeez, talk about like pressure. Yeah, no pressure.
God. Should we start like a betting pool? You know how much money we can make? All $2.
No, $2. I don't
earned.
Want to bet on his
No, I don't either, but there's a part of me that like wants to just make a jokey pool.
Yeah.
That if it does happen, I'll be like, wow, all right. I can't believe it. I mean, I'm not that I can't believe I was right, but I was like, oh gosh, I had a feeling.
Yeah, I got a feeling. I didn't know it would actually happen.
Yeah, I didn't really want it to happen, but anyway. But yeah, again, goes back to the bigger point that the way they've done this season of Fear the Walking Dead so far has been really, it's like, hey, The Walking Dead, take some notes.
Yeah,
you can have the best of both worlds in only half a season.
I know.
You can get to the point without 2 years of misery.
Listen, I have said I will be taking numerous breaks in the workday to go to the bathroom stall to see this trailer during Comic-Con. Last year, I was like, where's the trailer coming out? Where's the trailer coming out? Oh, the trailer's out. I'm going to go to the bathroom. Bye. But yeah, because I am...
The world's going on hold for now.
Whoa. Like, please hold.
Yeah, I gotta call you back.
I gotta call you back.
It's that time. It's going down now.
It's going down.
What's going down? Nothing. Bye.
Nothing. Bye. No, because I mean, you want to talk about pressure. It's also a lot of pressure on Angela Khan also to be kind of stepping into kind of a show that's, and I mean, and this is a topic that we can have on like another, subsequent podcast. I mean, it's a show that's almost sort of imploding in and of on itself, which I hate to say that, but between Andrew Lincoln leaving and the Chris Hardwick thing, and I mean, there's a lot of things in motion that they have to kind of get their heads wrapped around and rein in. And that's a lot, even for a seasoned producer, director, showrunner, whatever. I mean, you have your star person who decides to leave. You have also, other top tier actors that are also kind of stepping down in terms of Maggie. You have to already be cognizant of the fact that Denai Guerrera is, in all likelihood, probably somebody that you should start thinking about, that they might be on their way out at some point. I don't know. Maybe. Potentially. You have this Hardwick situation, which obviously is just something that you have to contend with also in one way, shape, or form. I don't know. And if they manage to handle this successfully, I am going to go on my feminist soapbox and say, look at this. You had to give it to a woman to clean up this shit. And here we go.
Yeah. Well,
I told you I'll go on my feminist soapbox if they can manage to pull off like something successful, because I think they can.
Well,
I think that there are ways to handle all of these situations. Each one of them that I mentioned, I think that there's a successful way to go about it, and I think that they can do it and they can handle it in a way that I think doesn't sacrifice the quality of the show. It can be well done, but it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how they deal with these challenges.
The moment I saw each thing unravel, I thought to myself, okay, first of all, I thought, oh, this is going to suck. But then I thought simultaneously, a few days later, I said, this isn't.
Sorry.
A few days later, and then a few days later after that, as I heard of the next thing, I said to myself, you have to look at these things, after all the misery and the crying, as opportunities.
They are.
I had to say this to myself every single time the next thing, this next bit of news came out or something.
That's the only way you can look at it.
Yeah.
The only way you can look at it.
Oh, no, you could look at it in other ways. Like most people on Instagram have. Oh, they're so awful. So awful.
I know.
They're awful human beings, and they are our fans. But no, they're
There are pessimists out there.
Yeah, it's really, really difficult to gauge, because really, really difficult to criticize, obviously. You can't deny people their feelings.
No.
But at the same time, it's funny, we got a comment on YouTube the other day, and somebody's commenting about, with like, Rick being off the show, I don't know if I'm going to watch it anymore. Like, well, we'll watch it for you, and then we'll let you know how it goes. But at the same time, I'm thinking to myself, because I asked the question, but you're going to watch anyway, huh? And I kind of like a nudge and a wink, and they're like, no. And I'm like, really? You don't want to see, I literally just say, you don't want to see how the Titanic sinks?
It is true.
At the same time, like, how are you not?
It is true.
How do you not want to see how it dies?
I agree. I'm not one of those people that I'm committed to a show. I can't imagine being so invested in a show for so many years. I mean, the show's been on for freaking almost 10 years now, and I can't imagine saying, like, you know what, I'm checking out here. I'm not happy with this what they're doing, so I'm going to stop watching. No, I'm going to see this thing through, because I need to understand. Like you said, if this ship is going to go down, I want to understand how this happens.
Right. I want to see what opportunity they're going to take, with everybody knowing what's going down behind the scenes. And that's the thing. I've watched shows and because of things they are doing in the show, I stopped watching. Because why am I still watching the show? I don't stop watching shows about casting decision changes, and because if we walked away from shows because of casting changes and staff changes, like, oh, this, Angela Kang leaves the show, and then they bring this guy in, and then they take this guy out and bring this guy in, and it's kind of like, we would have stopped watching a long time ago, but we didn't.
Yeah.
And we got some really good story. Even though it was grueling 7th and 8th season, it was still good to watch. It was still really gritty, and you stuck in there because of all the character expositions and some of the really good action sequences and the way they kind of frame certain ideas to you. Even though it was hard to watch, it's like a slow moving car crash, you still watch. You still do it, son.
Yeah, no, you're still gonna watch regardless.
And it's still good.
My personal opinion. I feel like some of those people are a lot of talk. I mean, I'm sure that there are some people who stop watching. Beyond my comprehension, I don't understand that. But I have to think that with this highly anticipated departure of Andrew Lincoln, and with all the other moving parts involved, I think this has garnered a lot of traction and interest in seeing exactly what you said. If this is the Titanic going down, people want to see how this ship is going to go down.
Yeah.
And maybe not. Maybe, in my mind, there's a way that this can be done, like I said, that can be successful. And it ties into fear, and we'll get there.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
We'll get there. We still haven't even gotten there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yes, definitely. I do want to bring up two more things with regards to this, and then we can move back to the fear. One is, I do get why people feel this way. It's because it's a great show. It's because we've been through so much, and we've been through so much with these specific characters. And I told this to Michael Satrazimus. He's my friend now, so he's my best friend. No, he's not. I was
going to say, oh my God.
He's our best friend.
He is. is. He's awesome.
No, so I basically I left a comment on his thing and just because it was something that was relating to Andrew Lincoln leaving, and he made an actual announcement. But unlike a lot of people, there was only a couple people that said something about it on at least Instagram that I'm aware of, and you look through the comments and people are like, I'm not going to watch. And I'm like, you know what? I took the opportunity on our Squawking Dead account to just say, hey, Michael, ignore it. I'm saying don't ignore everybody else. Everybody's just acting this way because the show's created characters that are so beloved, it's hard to imagine them not being a part of it. So their reaction is kind of a success story.
Yeah,
if you really think about it that way.
It's a testament to how successful they've been in developing the characters.
Enough to like feel rage at seeing them go. That's a credit. In a very interesting way. You have to kind of look at it that way. And I think they do. Even though, like, okay, there's that limit where you see Josh McDermott and you get all the hate and it goes a little too far. But that place just before that, a little too far, is kind of a compliment. That you could play such a snivelly kind of character, almost. This robotic, kind of geeky kind of person. That you're that good at that it's a credit to the show, honestly.
Yeah.
So there's that. I'll admit something on air, and it was... I'm 18 or 19 years old, and I remember seeing the previews. And I mentioned the Titanic specifically because of this. I saw the previews for the Titanic movie with Kate Winslet and Leo DiCaprio and all that, and I saw it, and I'm like, this is so dumb. We know how the Titanic eventually sinks. What's the point of this movie? And I ate my words. The Titanic sinking is secondary to the story of the how, from this perspective, this story was about. Like, looking back at it now, okay, it's a little bit too Hollywood or whatever you want to call it, cliche. But there was a moment, it was like a moment in time piece where, like, it's not even a matter of the fact that we know that the Titanic is sinking. The story is focused on a specific set of characters that revolves around this theme. And I bring this up because just because Andrew Lincoln leaves the show, it doesn't mean that there's nothing else to watch. He's still part of the first few episodes. Maggie, Lauren Cohan is still part of a certain amount of episodes. Don't you want to see how this rides out? Don't you want to see how the ship sinks? It's not a matter that the ship sinks. It's a matter of how it sinks. And then you start to understand that, this show can become so much more, maybe.
I think that people are just very impulsive with their words and their actions, and they just have these sort of knee-jerk reactions to basically say, like, that's it.
To say what they feel because it's the internet?
Yeah, exactly. They basically just are shooting off the cuff, and they can't stand the idea of him leaving. And look, I miss Abraham, and I miss Glenn, and but at the same time, I wasn't one of those people, because there were some people that stopped watching after that. They were like, Glenn's gone, Abraham's gone, I'm not watching it anymore, and that's their choice. I mean, yeah, I was traumatized for weeks, but at the same time, it's like,
but I got help.
Went therapy, good. But it's like I kept watching because it's like I'm invested in this story, and I need to see how this story further develops and how this story eventually comes to a close.
Yeah, and don't you want to see what do we get out of that sacrifice emotionally?
Yeah,
what's the payoff? There's got to be a payoff to that. The show's got to do something awesome with that payoff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think it has to mean something. It's basically like the character can't die in vain. That there has to be a meaning to it. It has to be a worthwhile sort of sacrifice for a greater good. But you have to kind of stick around to watch and see, is it going to develop into that? Are we going to see that? And, maybe we do, maybe we don't, but you have to kind of watch it to see.
Right, absolutely. And, we're getting the same thing from people who watch Fear the Walking Dead. I mean, just before this episode, there's just so much, or not even before, but like throughout this entire season, people have been calling that Madison was going to die. And when we finally, and it's kind of funny because we never really got a definitive answer. And even though everybody kept saying, I'm done with the show, Madison's dying, blah, 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 they still kept watching. They still kept watching just to make sure, right? So they didn't count her out. And when the final episode actually aired, you got less and less of that. You still got some people who said, I'm done with the show, you killed off Madison. But to her own Instagram account, to Kim Dickens' own Instagram, it's just so funny. And then, but like, again, it's like a testament to how much an actor has to, after a while, say, I can't believe I did this job so well. Like, I can't believe that it's a credit to her, to the crew, to the staff, to the writers, that they created this character that's so beloved that they're that emotionally visceral about their reaction to them being gone.
Well, especially since, she may not be gone.
And what's the episode called?
No one's gone till they're gone.
No,
exactly.
it's just No One's Gone.
Oh, it's really? That's just the title. It's not No One's Gone Till They're Gone. It's just No One's Gone.
No One's gone.
Well,
there you go.
Exactly.
Well, there you have it.
Well, there you have it. This is exactly my point. Can I get to my point?
Well, no. I'll tell you why. Because the one thing that we need to do is we're gonna do this. We're gonna flash to the video where we get Madison's quote. I'm gonna give it to you now.
Okay.
And then we're gonna move on to the campfire scene and all that stuff because they have to recount the scene at the diamond. And
yes.
So we're gonna start with this.
Which is very artistically done.
Oh my God. Oh, we'll get to that.
Yes.
So we start to see, or actually hear Madison first, and then we see her, and it starts saying, "But the light's getting fainter every day that we're out here. I'll do what I can. I'll do whatever it takes to keep it alive." And Alicia's watching this tape.
Yeah.
She greets Morgan. They have that moment. She backs away. Naomi saves John. And I stepped aside for your brother. And I'm not going to step aside for you. Whatever you think you've lost, whatever your mother wanted for you, it's in you. It's still in you, and I see it. And it's not like he knows the story.
No.
But he knows it from piecing it together from Nick, from her, that whole scenario. Just watching them talk to this camera and all that stuff. And again, Morgan takes away her firearm. He's the taker of firearms at this rate.
He disarms people.
And you know what I thought when I saw that?
What?
I said, like, there's no one in this group. Like, remember how panicked we were with just John Dory giving him his 6 shooters? Like, we thought it was like, okay, no, that's the wrong person to give a gun. But by the end of this episode, I'm kind of like, there's no one in this show I'd rather see have a gun than Morgan.
Yeah,
at this rate.
It's in capable hands.
My God, how have we flipped? I'm just amazed at how the show has managed to actually flip us. So it turns out that Madison never told them about Althea because of the way she kind of acted towards her. But she told them enough about the kindness of strangers and how she was shown that things can get better. Things can be better. They can dream bigger than just themselves and keeping their light alive, but pass that light on to others just like Althea did her. Alicia has Althea pull over because she needs to finally say the truth out loud, if only once. And they all step aside. They go by the campfire. There's noodles involved. And they start talking about the story. And I gotta admit, it was big because you have the scene and it's this slow-mo past scene. There's a lot going on and it's just this thing and your heart's kind of, I know my heart was kind of racing a little bit. Not like, not the same as Rick and Negan and the trailer and him with the hatchet and hanging from the body. Not that kind of heart racing.
No. Oh,
but there's this like tension in the back of your neck, like something's gonna happen and I'm not gonna like it.
Yeah.
And, like you kind of know.
By the way, side note, all Walking Dead fans get that feeling with some of these episodes. In fact, that episode that we were talking about before with Daryl and Beth in the McGrady hospital.
Oh God.
Remember how that ended with like the prisoner exchange and Beth eventually basically walks into killing herself.
You just knew it.
There was somebody memed that scene, like when both sides are on either side to do the prisoner exchange, and they like, how did they phrase it? It's like that moment when all Walking Dead fans knew this was not going to end well.
Oh, man.
And I remember watching that episode and it was like 7 minutes left. I was like, something really bad's going to happen in the next 5 minutes.
And it's weird because I feel like the Fear the Walking Dead had brought back the idea of, these sacrifices don't happen in vain. Whereas in The Walking Dead, some of the sacrifices in the last 2 years just feel like it didn't mean anything.
Beth's death was so pointless.
Well, no, but that's the thing. She managed to stab that woman in the heart or I don't know.
In the shoulder. She didn't even do any damage to her.
Right. But like enough to kind of throw her off her game so that by the end of it, it's like, at least something was done. And then they managed.
She died in vain.
Yeah. Well, she died. She definitely died. I wouldn't say in vain. Again, I think she was dying for a purpose. Like how much the group means to her and all that stuff. Like, yeah, I get what you mean. But it threw everybody off their game enough to be able to wrench the whole situation wide open. They got out with flying colors. It stunned everybody too. It stunned you as a viewer when you saw that in her. Yeah, in the and what's her name? I forget her name now.
Beth.
But, no. Well, yeah, that's true. But the whole idea of her going after, what's her face? I forget the villain's name.
I don't remember the lady's name. No.
Yeah, but it was so shocking to everybody at that scene, playing out that scene, that it just made it so that they could fuck shit up.
Yeah.
So
pretty much.
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, but the idea that is that so Strand, Luciana, Madison clearing a path for Nick, Mel and Alicia, and while that's all happening, all the dwellers dwellers, the stadium dwellers, trying to escape. You know, they're trying to get out of the walls. They're basically doing the opposite of what Madison instructed them to do. You know, they were safest. Yeah, they were safest inside the walls. In the whole milieu, they like Mel takes Charlie and escapes in the Land Rover. You know, so that's how that Land Rover got to escape. You know, and I think when they saw Naomi get out of the Land Rover, they'd assumed that she had escaped in the Land Rover and took it from them and went straight to the vultures, but that's not the case.
No.
You know, so there was an assumption. Yeah, because if you remember, Naomi talked a big game about the Land Rover.
Yes.
When Alicia and her were at the water park. So there's like this, okay, how do you know about the Land Rover so much? Oh, nothing. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, and then you find out the stadium dwellers, they kind of fell to the infected.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad for Cole. I liked Cole, actually.
Yeah. I kind of also thought like, oh, maybe they got out, and then I was like, oh, I guess not. That sucks.
Yeah, I actually left Sebastian Sozi, I think it was, or
yes.
Yeah, I left him a little message and said, hey, look, I just want to let you know you were fantastic,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I really wish that we could have squeezed at least a few more episodes out of you.
I know.
You really were just a treasure on the show, and he really liked it. Like, he sent us a comment and said, hey, thank you, man. I'm like, dude, you nailed it.
Yeah, no, he was good. I actually heard an interview with him recently.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, on another podcast. Like, he's a cool dude.
Yeah, all around.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's involved in a lot of things now, too, so
yeah,
good for
he's
him.
involved in a lot of projects, and he's local, like New Yorker.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I did not know that. But
Yeah.
maybe we'll get him on.
I always love hearing, like, my fellow New Yorkers. It makes me feel like home.
Yeah, we're so prideful.
Yeah.
We keep them. We got the good ones here.
And New Yorkers just have certain phrases that they say, and I kind of forget living in Florida that it's not universal.
Oh.
I kind of assume that everyone says certain things, and then, oh, I guess not.
You're like, how you doing? It's like, hello.
Not even
It's like,
just
I don't
that.
care about how
certain
you feel
phrases.
right now.
Just like certain phrases. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't say it all the time, but the occasional, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
yeah, you know what I mean?
That's definitely a Northeast, New York, New Jersey, tri-state area thing, because I definitely don't hear it down here. What's the one that I am guilty of saying, not for nothing? That's definitely.
I can't believe that's like such an old person thing to say.
But I still have girlfriends who will say, look, not for nothing, but blah, 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 blah. Like,
Oh, you know what though? I think I know what you mean. Because I think that's like an old thing that people used to say that I think other neighborhoods started picking up on and started saying after a while. Like, not for nothing. Like, shit, man. Whoa, I thought we got rid of that in the 50s.
yeah, no.
Oh
Just
my
saying.
God.
But yeah, he seems like a cool dude.
Yeah. So, and then we find out that he dies, and basically all, like, what, 38, 39 of them die?
The number, yeah.
That's really upsetting. But yeah, it kind of accentuates the fact that, like, gives Alicia a little bit more ammo to kind of be really fucked up about it. Yeah, so the stadium was overrun because as the stadium dwellers left, the doors were left open, and so that basically left it open so the walkers could come in. And despite them trying to stave them off, at a certain point, the walkers were wedged between the rest of the group and Madison. And Madison basically took it upon herself to lead the walkers away into the stadium, in the very place that they thought could shelter them from the outside world. It's kind of like I don't know, when I saw the episode again. I'm a huge Legend of Zelda geek.
Okay.
And part of like Legend of Zelda lore is the idea that in most of the games, or at least the main titles, that Ganon is basically the villain that pops up in every of the games. And you know, he basically steals the Triforce of power, and he tries to get the Triforce of wisdom and courage. You know, basically representing Zelda as the wisdom and Link as the courage, and he tries to get all three to basically dominate. You know, have his wishes granted and do whatever he wants in life. So part of getting rid of Ganon is that you really can't eliminate him, but you have to seal him away.
Okay.
And so when I saw the walkers go, Madison leading the walkers into the stadium, I thought to myself, oh my God, this is like Link sealing away Ganon, you know, sealing him so that they can't get out. So like they seal him into this like protective thing. And so I'm like, this is kind of cool. Like you turn the one thing that was going to guard you from the outside world, and then you bring the outside world to guard the outside world from from them. So and I just thought that was pretty cool.
Okay.
You know, the very stronghold.
All right. I think I could see that.
It's like a dungeon now.
All right.
For you geeks out there. That was just for you.
There you go.
That wasn't for Carol.
Well, I'm a very vocal geek. I wear that moniker proudly.
Stop playing, son.
Yeah, there you go.
Stop playing The Legend of Zelda, y'all.
Just saying.
And so as they're talking about the story, like, they get to the part where Naomi kind of interjects and she says, I booked because the walkers were entering in and the stadium's a big place, and she'd assumed that the Clarks actually died. And of course, if you remember, that the Clarks had assumed that Naomi died also, and that's what they told John. So, you know, it's like a vice versa situation. Like, I thought you left me, you know, I thought you left me to die because you had died. You know, you wouldn't leave me behind for nothing. And she was trying to basically get the rest of the stadium dwellers to stay as well. It's like, don't leave. I mean, you're safer in here. If you leave, you're leaving this place open to be overrun. It's like, no, we don't intend on staying and we don't want to come back. So, you know, Naomi was the only one who stayed. And then when she couldn't stay anymore, she left.
Right.
And that kind of brought Alicia to a better place in her mind, gave her a chance to kind of figure it out. And then, if you remember, you know, Madison had made her sacrifice, and the team that you meet, that's the team like shortly, not too long after the stadium fell. I don't know how long after the stadium fell, but, you know, Luciana, Strand, Nick, and Alicia, they run across the SWAT van, and Strand basically said, and it's kind of like, it's important to remember from when Strand says to Naomi, you did what you had to do, because the Clarks did the same thing. They basically stole a woman's SWAT van. So they get it. There's like a means for them to understand what Naomi had to do. And she had to leave. She could not stay.
Right.
So I feel like now we've kind of got a little bit of closure, you know, after all of their trying to kill Naomi. So with figuring that out, the team basically explained how, you know, with so many dead in the stadium already, they tried to clear a path. Madison, you know, locked the dead in the stadium with her because there's nothing to do about it. She couldn't get out. There's still so many around the stadium too. So she basically, with the oily walkers, she basically turned the flare on them and just lit them and, you know, hope for the best. But, you know, that she sacrificed herself in the end. Yeah, and Strand burning his hand off the walker, saving Alicia. He has that reminder now. And then Madison actually sends something off to the team before she leaves. You know, she does the same thing that Alicia did in the car when she was with Mel and Nick. You know, remember how she had that final send-off?
Yes.
And basically trying to tell Madison, you know, we did this to live up to your promise, to your ideals, you know? So Madison doing the same thing, she says, I was afraid to lose this place because I thought you needed it to stay who you are right now, but you know it. And then she says, no one's gone until they're gone. And then the crew just says it was never about the stadium. It was about the people. It was about us. That's why my mom gave up her life, so that we could live, you know? It's just so dramatic. It's so great. Yeah. What did you think about that, though?
May I?
Oh, please.
I think it was very well done. I think it was very artistically done.
You're like, bullshit.
However, you know what? I was going to say that my reaction was to reference Simon from The Walking Dead. Bullshit.
Bullshit?
Yes. I refuse to believe that a badass like Madison is going to lead walkers into a stadium, light them up, and just kind of allow herself to be consumed rather than run up the freaking risers the way she did in previous episodes. And I'm just saying, and once they're in, they're not outside anymore. How about
they were still outside though.
Well, but eventually, like, they seem like they all went in, because by the time they go in the now to drive over there, when they were outside the stadium, there were very little to no walkers. It isn't until they break into the stadium that's like, oh my God, look at all these walkers, you know. But
true,
it seemed like,
I think that was over the course of like a month or so, you know.
Yeah, she can wait it out.
Dissipate.
Yeah, she can wait it out. She's a badass, right? I mean, this is like, she's supposed to be a badass. Like, it's very hard for me to imagine a badass just gonna say, I'm just gonna, you know what? I'm just gonna kill myself. I'm just gonna sacrifice myself. I'm not even gonna try. And my other thing with this show, which I always say, is that I don't buy it for a second unless I see a body.
Where's the body?
Where's the body?
Where's the beef?
If I don't see a body, major side eye. And I think I put a gif of it on Twitter. And one of my,
you did.
I was like, yeah, major side eye when I don't see a body on this show. I'm like,
That got many reactions.
It did get many reactions.
Very good.
But it's true. It's like, unless I see the body, you want to talk about reasonable doubt? I have reasonable doubt. And then the title of the episode is like, no one's gone, because she's not gone. So my personal feeling, simply put, she's not gone. Basically, if you want to go with a loophole, the character of Madison died that night. Yes, I will give that to you. And out of the ashes rose Alpha.
Right. And something that we have talked about.
And this is something that I think, I can't say that's what they're going to do because I don't know what the hell they're going to do anymore on this show. If I had to basically say what is going to be a big impact, because we know this whole Whisper story arc is happening. Based on everything that we hear in the chatter and everything as it's progressing, it's like they're marching towards that storyline. So it is going to happen.
Without a doubt.
And it is going to happen this coming season. But this is your biggest person. This is your biggest leader of this group. And no one knows who this person who's going to play it is. I mean, shoot, we know who was going to play Negan before Negan showed up. We knew Jeffrey Dean Morgan was cast. And we knew that he was going to play Negan. In this case, no one has a clue. No one has a clue. No one. Who's Alpha?
Pretty tight-lipped. Yep.
Who's Deanna? No.
Who's Alpha?
Who's Alpha?
Who's Beta?
No, Beta is Taka. That's Beta.
Oh.
He's still out there.
Interesting.
He's still out there.
Yeah, but I think he's got... I'm not disputing it. Well, no, I'll let you have this one. I think he has his... Oh, no.
He could.
Oh,
He has the stature of Beta.
You know what's so funny is that I was going to say that... Oh, man. I think that he has enough on his plate.
He has enough on his plate.
However, I mean, Native American cultures have various stories about the skinwalkers.
That is true. That is very true.
Skinwalkers were supposedly shapeshifters, but, literally, skinwalkers.
You could, that's what I'm saying. Like, you could necessarily, see a connection there. I mean,
I don't think you were thinking of that when
I heard when I know of his character and all of that, so I was like, that does make sense. But in my case, the biggest thing is Alpha and the Whisperers weaponize huge swarms of walkers.
Right.
That's what they do. They basically collect them, very similar to what the Vultures did.
Right.
Except in a way that is not so meticulous the way they did, which is sort of like, okay, we're collecting them in these trailers. It's like, no, they don't do that. They don't have trailer parks with walkers, but they basically, they guide them, they guide them and they lead them almost as their army of the undead, you know? And I mean, that's essentially what she did. It's what she did. And it's like, how interesting would it be if that's how this villain got her start, where she learned her ways of doing this is from this experience. And we got to see the birth of a villain, of what's the background of that villain? Because so often we don't get a background on a villain. We don't, maybe we get a little episode here, a little tidbit. Oh, he used to be this in a former life, and now this, this is where he is now. And it's fine. We come to expect that. How much more interesting would it be to kind of see a journey, and it's culminated to this point where this character is this is where they started, and this is the evolution of a character to a villain, and this is everything that happened to get to this point. And it gives you a different understanding and a different approach to that character, rather than they just being a one-dimensional sort of ha ha ha, I'm a bad guy. It's no, there is some depth to this character. Yeah, they may be evil and they're doing evil things, but how do you reconcile that with what you know of where they came from? And I find that to be very interesting, and that could be very, very different and very impactful. So I would love for them to do something like that. I don't know if they will, obviously. They very well could have just called her off and that's the end of that. But how impactful would it be for them to cross over and do something like that on that end? Not just cross over Morgan on that end, but cross over Madison on that end, and maybe Taka or whoever else who would be her Beta, and hell, she could be the one to take out Rick for all we know.
Well, she would have to, I suppose, right?
I mean, in the comic that's not how it happened, because obviously Rick still lives, but I mean, it's knowing that he's going to make his exit, how impactful would it be for Alpha to be her and for she to be the one to take out Rick? I mean, that would be... you want to talk about getting people invested again. Well, there you have it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And that's what I was saying. Nothing would be better than to really be able to loop in a character or a villain. See, I know we had focused initially on the enemy within, and now we can't be 100% certain that that's going to be the case for this next season.
No, we can't. Yeah. It
could still be, and it could get away from, let's say, Maggie, and it could turn into something bigger. But it kind of has its toes dipped in two arenas. It is sort of the enemy within. It's the enemy we know. And so we have an attachment to that enemy, let's say. And then it's also the same kind of trope, but it's on a grander scale than even all-out war, let's say.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, and then you have the Negan component to that.
Right,
which could be very interesting.
Could be very interesting, yeah.
So, yeah, this could be something huge that we stumble across.
This could be very compelling and very huge, and something that would really really suck you into this story, because now you know all the backstory of this character, all the backstory of this character, and now you're just kind of like reconcile it all with like, how did we get here? Oh my god.
Well, you know what they're gonna have to do though. They're gonna have to tie it in somehow on the back half of this second part of
Fear,
yeah. Somehow, even if it's the last scene or the last episode, but there's gonna have to be some sort of, I would want there to be some sort of build-up, because unless they're gonna do some sort of and I can't imagine that they would even have time or reveal.
Have to be something else. There has to be a bigger. There's got to be a bigger plan for this season, because it's not about this season clearly wasn't about us versus the vultures or something, because that's been eliminated. That's done. Because sometimes you watch these seasons and you know what the trope is. It's like, okay, it's all out war, us versus the saviors, and it all culminates into finally defeating the saviors, a season later, 2 seasons later, whatever. In this case, this is kind of like Terminus, where it's like you thought that was going to be something, but they kind of came in and blew it up in like 2 episodes, and that was it. So, the vultures came and they dealt with them, and that's it. So
yeah, we mentioned that.
So this season has to be about more than just that.
I see what you're saying,
but I don't know what that is. Like, what does the second half of the season look like?
Right, and this could be that,
and it could, and that could be it. That could be kind of what this is. I don't know, but it's like clearly not about the vultures. Like it's something else. There's a bigger theme or direction of what this season is going towards.
Yeah. I would agree with you. The only thing that I can see as being a deterrent, and this is only because of just knowing the staff, unless Gimple is really pulling the strings on this one, because I'm not sure that how much of that he's doing with Fear.
That's the thing. It's hard to gauge, because he has to have some semblance of still control, because it's almost kind of like somebody moving to a higher role and them not micromanaging, but like the bigger picture is approved by them. Right. You know what I mean? It's like they're not necessarily involved in the nitty gritty of how you get there, but you got to get to this final destination.
Right, you gotta hit these points in order for this grand arc to work. And of course, we've mentioned that Gimple's involved and Kirkman's involved, and even Greg Nicotero's involved
in both. Yeah, they're all involved in both.
So, and we haven't really received too much. We haven't received any input on that matter in any way. Because all my interactions have been limited to really, because there's just no chatter from the other people, but we have seen so much chatter from Chambliss and Goldberg and Satrazemis and all the cast from Fear the Walking Dead. They really have been invested, and I've mentioned that several times. But none of the bigger picture stuff, which is, it's like the next Apple kind of secret level carrying.
Exactly.
If they know anything at all, which is entirely possible that they don't know anything.
They might not. It might be because it's bigger picture. They kind of have kept that very hush hush,
purposefully,
right, to only those who absolutely need to know in order to avoid any sort of leaks. It could be the same thing with Walking Dead, in terms of like what the ultimate direction is, who's alpha.
Oh my god.
Whoever that happens to be.
Let's play this out though, because I'm just for my own sake, is that, let's say they don't know who it is. Obviously Alpha, they have the walker masks and stuff and all that stuff. What if that person shows up on set like limitedly, and they show up only in that outfit?
I know that.
And every day they're filming and they have these limited scenes.
I will say
and then they have to go to their trailer.
I will say the one good thing with a character like Alpha, and if she is indeed played by Kim Dickens, is that for all intents and purposes, Kim Dickens is a very nondescript kind of statured person. When they've had certain characters, like when that come as a surprise, it's a little harder to hide them. Whereas like, she's somebody that, you can hide her, wear a hoodie, cap, what, you know what I mean? It's like, you're not going to like stand out like a sore thumb and be like, is that Abraham? I mean, you could tell when it's, okay, that's Abraham.
Or, that, and she's not like a diva. She doesn't have an entourage.
No,
probably.
Exactly. So I think that if in fact it is her, they'll probably be able to keep it fairly under wraps until they need to share or whatever. Or they won't share that information.
Oh God.
They'll keep that to the grave until everything airs.
Literally.
I know. I mean, and that's part of it. It's like, we know they're filming. We know that they're definitely doing this with her story arc. We know that there's a time jump. We know all of this. So it's sort of like, okay, then where is she? You can't have all of this happening without this main character. So who is she? Where is she? You got to let us know who she is.
You mentioned this in several episodes ago that there was a high celebrity actress that was tied to this.
Maria Bello. And I thought for the longest time that Maria Bello was going to be Alpha because it was an IMDb where it said that she was casted for Walking Dead season 8. And at that point, we were at the season finale.
Oh, right. Yes, that's right.
I was like, okay, well, if we haven't seen her and she was cast for season 8, then in my mind, I thought that that we were going to see a little teaser trailer for season 9, like a sneak peek or something, you know, like one of those, like after the credits, little bonus scene or whatever.
Right.
And you'd see that she's Alpha or something. And that's like a little tease of what's to come. But that never happened. So I don't know. I mean, maybe she played some other nondescript kind of role, you know, in the course of the season that we didn't really pick up on. I mean, I don't know. But that was a lot of the speculation. But it doesn't seem like that's the case. So I don't know. I will light a candle. I will hope that your
theory is correct.
That my theory is correct. That is my hope, because if that happens, I will immediately text you the moment that the mask comes off and we see that it's her. I'm gonna be like, I called it. Shit, I called it.
I mean, we both called at different points.
At different points.
And seriously, we both put so much thought into her being possibly it.
It would just be so impactful.
You know what the worst part about it is? There's a part of me that's like hoping it isn't.
You just want new blood.
No, it's not that.
You want it to be that she went out in that particular way.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to. Well, it's more like that. I was hoping that she would, her memory would be preserved in like a positive light. Like if we're not going to have her, to have her, then descend into this obvious, really bad, really evil character.
Because I think the thing is that.
But you're thinking that they will probably do some sort of justifiable nature kind of thing.
Well, I think based on everything
like humanizer?
I mean, they do a little bit with Alpha towards the end. Like you kind of see that obviously this is a person who has emotions and feelings. It's just part of needing to have a certain persona to remain the alpha dog, you know, otherwise it's like you can't. And I think that
sounds familiar.
Well, no, exactly. And I was talking to a good friend of mine who's a big Fear fan and Walking Dead fan, and she was saying that this whole piece with her being like mommy dearest at the stadium kind of like didn't feel natural to her, because she felt like we've been seeing Madison kind of evolve into this sort of like, you know, like you said, badass or ruthless, you know, leader or whatever in order
Mama Bear.
Yeah. And basically, you know, they kind of felt that this stadium was a bit of like, oh, okay, we're not doing that. Okay, we're doing this instead. But the fact of the matter is that they kind of felt that based on the natural progression of how she had been moving, based on like, you know, the previous seasons, that it would make sense that she would end up at this point of being this sort of ruthless leader, alpha dog character. And, you know, Alpha has her daughter in the storyline. So maybe you incorporate that into the second half of the season. Maybe she pops up, and maybe
Daryl gets a little Alicia action.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, like
that's gonna be really rough on Alicia, though. Holy crap.
Yeah. So I don't know. But I think that there's a lot that they can work with. I'm very curious to see what they do. I'm very curious to see how the second half of Fear plays on, because it comes back, I think, mid-August, and so it has 8 episodes. So that would take you mid-August, basically right up to when Walking Dead comes back, because Walking Dead comes back in October.
And that's enough to film, I think, the first half, if I'm not mistaken, at least.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be able to fill the whole season by the time October comes around, but definitely the first half. So they'll have that in the can, which means that's probably all the scenes with Andrew Lincoln and Lauren Cohan.
Yeah,
that we know of, among several cast members that are leaving. So probably.
Yeah, because I think that they're only in 6 episodes, so they're not in all 8
Maybe,
episodes.
Yeah. We don't know how many, but that's
the rumor mill.
There's like at least a few. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, so this one's going to be pretty rough, this this first half.
Yeah.
And you know what? The other thing that we have to consider again is that there is a time jump, so that's the worst part.
In what way?
Because if there is a time jump and we're right about Madison, it means that there is a significant amount of time of her unaccounted for, which means, oh boy. Because again, with Alpha's daughter, that means she hooks up with Alicia at some point, and then they, you know, that somehow we have to get Alicia tortured again enough to be able to be in dire straits to become her daughter. So that's a rough thing to put on a character and on the audience, I think, too.
It is rough. I wouldn't be surprised if they would do it, though, because with Luciana, we don't know where she came from. Like, she kind of like reappeared, and we're like, oh,
that's true, yeah.
And there was never an explanation as to how, where, why.
Madison brought her, yeah, right.
No idea. It's just sort of like, yeah, she's back. I'm like, okay, all right, we'll go with that. So who knows, how much they'll go into trying to like really illustrate how we got to this point. Like, they might just leave it to us to be like, oh, I guess.
It's like, again?
I was like, okay, I guess they got together. All right.
I think they need to do the hard work to make it work, though. That's what I'm not looking forward to.
They should do the hard work in order to connect all the dots.
Yeah.
Especially if this was all part of their grand master plan.
Right.
Then I need to see how well thought out this was.
I'm gonna make the safe bet and say that Madison's not gonna be Alpha.
Okay.
And not to bust your bubbles, because there's just so much work.
No. We have to have like these different viewpoints, because at the end of the day, I don't know. At this point, like I have no idea what direction this show's going to go, because there's just too many questions.
Right.
Too many question marks.
Now, don't get me wrong. I want you to be right, but in order to be right, so many things have to work.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. I'm just saying, whoa. Okay, with all the decisions that are being made with staffing and all that, and people leaving and blah, 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 there's a worry that, again, this is not my worry, but there's a concern that, it's going to be a poor quality product, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I want to see how the Titanic sinks. And then, but now the scope of what would be involved to try to get to that place is if it's not done right, it's a lot to ask the audience to kind of swallow.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, why don't you play it safe and bring somebody new? Something like that. But which again is not it's hey, if you were smart you wouldn't do it, and you can it's easier to work with a carte blanche. You like to work with somebody new and figure that out. But I don't know. And again, the possibility of the enemy from within is still on the table somehow. I think somehow.
It's still a possibility.
And how that morphs is who knows. I mean, hell, like in my mind, there's a possibility that I don't know. Like, what if Michonne flips somehow? I don't know. That would be rough.
Don't forget Heath is still out there.
Yeah.
Still out there.
Just want to remind you, and by the way, I didn't know how many people were still on that bandwagon, because
oh hell yes,
it's just crazy.
Oh no, there are many people just like me that are very much like, okay, where's Heath? Like, we should have t-shirts that say where's Heath.
Like, once a month they check in and they go, reminder, Heath is still out there.
Exactly.
There's a helicopter
still out there. Heath is still out there. Taka's still out there.
Right.
Still out there. Like, there's still all these different people that it's like they're in play, basically. Like, as far as I'm concerned.
Morales is still... Oh, no, he's gone.
No. And that was a running joke for the longest time, remember?
Yes.
And then what happened? And then he finally showed up and people were like, what the fuck, Morales?
I feel like they brought him out just to kind of take him off the list. Like, okay, no, he's not out.
They did that just to mess with everyone.
His family's dead.
They did that just to mess with everyone, because you thought that it was like, you gave him, like, he was around for, 10 minutes before Daryl shot him?
Yeah, exactly. That's cool.
And then it was like, oh, well.
Let's go down.
I was like, yeah, they're in play as far as I'm concerned. Again, if I don't see a body, it's still they're in play.
It's still warm.
Who else? Oh, Dwight's wife, Sherry.
Sherry, right?
Yeah. So I'm like, between Sherry, Heath, the helicopter, Taka, Daniel, these people are all out there. So as far as I'm concerned, and people try to make the argument of like, well, how would they get from Texas to Alexandria, whatever. Look, if Morgan was able to Forrest Gump his way from Alexandria to Texas, then the other way around works.
Wow.
It can happen.
Yeah. It can happen. And you have the network of the Commonwealth and all this stuff that's possible. And
it's all possible.
I mean, you can weave all of these stories together. I mean, this is going to be one grandiose, crazy arc.
Right.
I mean, first of all, between those two storylines alone, the Commonwealth and the Whisperers, you can definitely do something with two storylines at once with these two fucks.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And even play them against each other.
No, and they are, in the comic, they are both going on at the same time. Like, it's not like, okay, we were going to focus on this and then we're going to move into this. It's like they are both kind of happening at the same time, you know?
Yeah. And you know what else is that I honestly can see a scenario where this is just going to be another one of those Robert Kirkman trying to do better on TV than what he can possibly do in the comic book situations.
Yeah.
This would be like the definitive moment where The Walking Dead, not jumps the shark, but where they can actually give the comic readers more.
Yeah, more. Yeah. Because the thing is, like, it's like I've always said, it's like comic books are one form of medium and there is a limit to how much depth you can really get in a comic. You get a semblance of certain things in the time, but you can't really give this sort of like grandiose, bigger picture sort of like scenario of like these different pieces in play and this person is coming from this situation and this from this situation. It's like you can't, it's difficult to do that in a comic form. It's hard.
Yeah.
This medium of television lends itself better to tell that story in a way that's more thorough and compelling.
But there are also more concise ways that you can do with subtle acting nods that don't take up so much panel space.
No, exactly.
It makes you breeze through a specific scene. So instead of spending a whole 2 comic pages on this one thing, it could be done with 2 words of dialogue and just a look, or like a scene change or something like that.
Yeah,
and motion. Like these scenes in motion could say a lot more than what you can do in several panels of a comic book, because then it relays the emotion in an express kind of way, in a compressed kind of way.
Yeah,
that we get it as humans. We take those cues and run. It's like the Xander Berkeley effect. It's how we first notice it, and the Negan effect too. And I think that's why you were so upset with some of the dialogue that he got that was kind of the same as the comic, because he can do it in ways that didn't need to be done exactly that way.
Right. Exactly. And some of the best dialogue he had were ones that they came up with that weren't comic related.
Yeah, like that whole scene with the walkie and Michonne. That was a moment. That was one of those moments where he took his time. He said what he needed to say. You could feel the anguish behind his voice, but also the anger, the resentment at knowing that Carl died, but also his wishes and like, wish you told me sooner. We could have done this. Now I have to be this way. Yeah. And it was just this one thing. And I love how, and I could not let it not be in one of our at the end of our podcast, because it was just so perfect. Yeah. With that said, we have a sneak peek, and it's kind of boring. I don't know what they were trying to do with the sneak peek. I don't know if they were trying to say, "Hey, show's over," because it was Morgan reaching a mansion with solar panels, which and basically, Strand is at the top taking sniper shots at this walker that managed to get through the gate. It looks like it did, because he's looking pretty gnarly because he got through. Like a bear mauled him.
Yeah.
Mauled him. No, the walker. And Strand's drunk saying, "Hey, I guess I missed one." And Morgan's kind of looking like, "What?
Right.
I took the thing out and like, what's going on, buddy?" So, but in other kind of quick scenes, we see this season involves like some sort of tropical storm of some kind, or a tornado.
Do you know what I thought?
The Wizard of Oz?
No.
Kidding.
All I thought was Sharknado.
Oh no, you didn't.
That's all I thought of.
The
like
walkers in the winds?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly all. That's all I could think of.
Oh my god, that's so Florida. Okay.
That's all I could think of. I was like, this is like a Sharknado moment right here.
Oh my god. Well, it's gonna be something like that, I think.
It does, yeah, that's what it seemed like.
Some elements. I think, and that's what they said. I remember what Greg Nicotero was always saying. There's always this awesome opportunity to do something with walkers that has never been done before.
He has said that.
Right. And now the Fear guys get to do that. I mean, they did it with the oily walkers. Right?
Yeah, yes, they did.
So now, now the crispy walkers, and now, how much fun is that? They get to do with walkers on wires now.
Yeah, that's also fun things.
It's pretty exciting. Again, no winter, so there's not going to be winter in Texas.
No, there's not going to be winter.
Kidding me?
True.
You kidding me?
Yeah, none of that.
Do you think? Okay, here's my last question before we sign off. Do you think we will finally get walkers in winter? Walkers on ice?
Walkers on ice. I was say winters.
That would be great. If Walking Dead finally goes out, they've got to get the cash grab where they can get it.
Yeah, it's just walkers on ice. I mean, look, it'd be very Game of Thrones behind the wall. There you go. I mean, they could. I mean, listen, they are close enough to Washington, D.C. If they're in Virginia, they are close enough to D.C. I've been to Virginia. Virginia gets fucking cold, okay? I've been to Virginia in January, and that shit's not cool. Like,
it's cold.
It's freezing. Like, literally, it was one of the coldest winters that I can recall. Like, I had to wear, like, thermals under my jeans, and it was still, like, awful.
Oh, yeah, the Potomac is freaking freezing.
Freezing.
I go there every year for this event called MagFest. And MagFest stands for Music and Gaming Festival.
Oh, okay.
It's just for these video game geeks. And it happens during February where it's still...
I should tell my husband.
Yeah, well, tell him to meet me down there, man. It's great. It's a great time, man. You should come too. What the hell? And so yeah, it's literally a weekend at National Harbor, which is kind of, it's in DC.
Yeah,
It's right on the water. And so, occasionally you got to step out to eat. And of course, when you step out to eat, you're like, oh my God, it's freaking freezing. And you don't want to bring a jacket to these things. So
what time of year does it usually happen?
It used to be like the top of January, and now they've been doing it lately in February, but it's still cold. It's still really cold.
I was going to say, those are two of the bitterest months ever. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, you want to go to the Northeast, try to go between September and December, because once January and February hits, whew, those are the toughest months. But yeah, I had a work trip to the DC area. I had a project in Virginia and in DC proper, and we drove down from New York and made a little trip out of it, but it was freezing. I mean, and to me, if they're in Alexandria, there is no reason. I mean, we just haven't seen winter because they choose to just not do it, but there is no reason why we can't see walkers on ice or white walkers. Like they need to do that. They need to do that. Like, wow. If they know this ship is sinking, they need to start throwing some of that in there.
Right. And you know what? So they're not filming they're probably not filming the back half of that season.
No, not yet.
They're probably going to do that in winter, and I hope they don't do it in Georgia because I want my goddamn winter.
I want my winter.
And also, if they're going to end the show or something this season, or at least start season 10, go out with winter, please.
Go out with winter. People want to see that.
Give me what I want.
Go film that last season up in Canada. Go to the tundra.
Oh my God. Go to the Delta out there. Jeez, please.
Go over there and film that. They'll love you up there.
At least pick Alberta. It's like cowboy country. Come on.
Yeah, it's affordable up there too, I hear, to film.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. The Alberta. Yeah, they do a lot of film grants and stuff.
They film a lot up there. Yeah.
And there's a lot of desolate kind of areas too.
Absolutely. I would be all about it. Come on, if you're gonna go out with like white walkers in winter.
I'll be paying close attention to
everyone would.
Where they're filming.
People would be like, finally, want to see some frozen walkers. Just wait until they freeze and then shatter them.
Holy crap! Do you think? Oh my God! You've gone crazy, Carol. You've gone crazy.
I thought of techniques.
Although that does, I'm not thinking they're going to shatter or with dragon glass. Oh my God, they've jumped the shark. No, but I'm thinking, if they're not gooey anymore, right? So,
no, they're not. They're all frozen.
And we have seen them walk slowly in water in this season of Fear the Walking Dead.
Because they're not agile. Like they're not like, and the same thing again. And this also goes back to the stadium. Same thing in the stadium. She could have very easily climbed the tiers of those stands because walkers don't go upstairs. They don't climb stairs.
Right. They kind of just crawl up them.
They're just gonna crawl. They're not thinking about what they're doing. If they get pushed onto a stair, then fine, they'll keep moving. But that's all they're doing is they just keep moving.
Right. All they know is forward in whatever capacity. Yeah.
Exactly.
Ooh. They must be really investing in how they're exactly going to be doing the winter thing because they really want to get the fluid dynamics just right, the density, the bone density, and all that stuff in winter and the cold.
It's a process.
This is me wishful thinking right now. That's all it is.
There's a lot of wishful thinking right now.
On my part.
A lot of it will be determined by what we see in that trailer. I forget when San Diego Comic-Con is happening. It's happening in the next couple of weeks, though, because it's always early July, and people have gotten their passes already.
Yeah, not us, because just like your vacation, it's just dragging your feet. We're stupid. What are we doing with our lives?
Listen, Comic-Con is an investment, okay? It's an investment.
It is. Hey, that's the first thing we're going to have to try to do. That's all.
Oh, it's later in the... Yeah, I know. We need to do that one day. It's later on, actually, than I thought. It's July 19th.
Oh, well then.
A little later. Damn it.
That's a possibility, man. I don't know. We'll see.
God damn it.
It's worth it, man. You know what? I'm gonna see what strings I could pull. See what falls off. What limbs fall off.
I know.
In winter.
It's truthfully not crazy expensive. Like your expenses are more like the actual getting there is what it is. But the actual passes are not as crazy as one would think.
It's the hotel that gets you. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean that's what it is. It's the travel expenses.
Honestly, I'd be in and out. I just want to get that trailer. I don't want to stay the night.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I just want the trailer. I want that trailer.
And hopefully, maybe I can get in for free. I don't know. I'll hedge my bets.
Oh, all right. There you go.
I get some press action.
See that? That's impressive.
Yeah. I gotta put my money down. I gotta put my cards on the table. I was gonna say my balls, but whatever. Anyway.
It's late.
I'm not editing that out.
No, we're just gonna leave that all in there.
Yep,
no, but that trailer is going to.
Yeah, you're really pumping this up, and I'm really, really getting excited
because and you know that they have to, knowing how amped everybody is and knowing what's happening.
Yeah, the tensions.
Yeah, they need to deliver thoughtfully on what they show as a trailer.
Yeah, this is gonna change hearts and minds. That's what's really. It's like football. It's like the pep talk, guys.
Yeah,
gather around.
Gather around. This is what we're doing. Okay, here's the game plan.
Here's the Hail Mary, and then you do the pass. And listen, it's about the game. It's about making your parents proud. I know we've had a hard season or two.
I mean, I also hear that they are going to broach the topic of Shane at Comic-Con.
Yes, that's right. We did reveal that he's going to be in one of these episodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
At least one.
Yeah.
Said.
And I always thought that was very interesting to kind of see, because occasionally throughout the seasons they've brought up the idea of, okay, what if Shane was still around? What if Shane was still around?
Man, Shane was the fucking bomb. He was the original badass.
Well, now we think that he's the bomb. I thought he was like, how panicky were you?
I mean, he was psycho.
Yeah, at the time we were like, he needed to go. But now, how do you bring Shane?
Shane is going to be a hallucination or a flashback. There's no other way. I can't see any other way. I mean, there have been some people that tried to go crazy and they're like, well, maybe they could do a lost alternate timeline. I'm like, stop with that. Stop.
Okay, stop.
We're not doing that.
Go home. Think about what you just said.
Exactly. We're not doing that. No. It's a flashback or hallucination.
No, I think it's going to be a flashback, and I think it's going to be relevant to what's going on at the time. It's going to be a telling one.
But I have heard rumors that they might bring other potential past characters as part of this sort of send-off.
Oh, shit.
I've always said that the send-off that they gave Tyrese was one of the best send-offs that I'd seen, or most beautiful send-offs that the show has done. They brought back Beth and the little girls and the governor, and he saw all these people, before he passed away. And I think that was an episode that was really well done. And so, I mean, they have to step it up when it comes to Andrew Lincoln. Like, however it is that they plan on doing it, it has to be done in a way that really pays homage to the character and everyone that he has touched or that meant a lot to him, which obviously, like, if you're gonna go that route, then you're gonna have to bring back Shane. You're definitely gonna have to bring back Carl. I would argue Lori, Glenn, Herschel. Those are the people off the top of my head that I would.
Glenn, Herschel, yeah, sure.
Like
maybe Dale.
Maybe.
A lot of people miss the actor, actually. So
I know a lot of people do miss him, but I just think of even Herschel, just because he had flashbacks with Herschel after Herschel died.
Oh yeah, actual timeline flashbacks. Right.
Yeah, like he was having like Herschel flashback. We know he had like Lori hallucinations.
Right.
So it's like it's all within the realm of possibility that these are individuals that would be on his mind. If he's hallucinating or flashing back or whatever, the case may be.
Yeah.
But I'm pumped that Shane is going to be back. I'm like, wow, Shane.
Already.
Yeah.
It really brings the idea of, okay, how do we look at Shane now after everything that's happened? And in a way, Shane was there before Rick had ever thought about going there.
Listen.
And now we can see him in a different light. It's kind of like the thing I brought up about Strand, right? Now we're ready for Strand. And now Strand is different. So, but still.
Rick, at the time that Shane was still around, Rick just hadn't been tested yet. From Mel.
Yeah, good. That was good.
And it is true. He had not been
Neither
tested.
Shane, though, but still, right?
Shane was ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Shane was already there. He already was kind of like the way
he watched
Rick
Alex Jones. He was there. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, the way Rick was this season, basically like, we're not fucking around. We're going to kill these saviors and I don't really care. It's like that is a Shane sort of approach. Shane was already there. there back in season 2.
Well, Rick was kind of Shane.
Yeah, I mean, it
at
was
the time.
it was in him. The potential for him to be that way was in him. He just hadn't been tested yet. And once he got to that point, I mean, he was able to be just as vicious.
Right,
you know?
right. And you know what's interesting is that bringing him back, is really interesting because the only way to
he might pop up and be like, "Look, I told you couldn't take care of your wife and kid."
Yeah. Oh boy. Oh boy. Wow.
I mean,
that would be fucked up.
That would be very fucked up.
I don't know how many times we can swear before we have to say offensive content, but that's messed up.
But I mean, that's what he said. That was his argument. He wanted to take his wife and kid.
Right. Well, he took his kid, so.
Yeah.
The other one. That would be interesting, but you have to realize the one thing is that the only way they were able to move forward, according to Rick and Carl, was to put down the Shane.
Yes.
So that is what makes the Shane element, whatever they decide to do with it, and I'm gonna bank that it's a flashback, like the same thing as Herschel, like an unseen scene between those two, and it can't be like the FU kind of situation.
No,
but it has to be something that is kind of like, in a way, like, yeah, I needed to be you, and then be able to pull back, and then Shane would still be Shane, echoes of the past trying to pull him back into the darkness, kind of like Madison. Also, again, I know I'm bringing that back, but when you brought up the whole mama bear thing, and you have to recognize one thing is that her mama bear instincts had reared its head in the episode prior to that, and so it does prepare you for the possibility of an alpha, but again, the only way
somebody with a hammer.
Yeah,
I mean, like
a little reminder there.
That's kind of messed up.
Madison's hammer. Yep.
It's kind of messed up.
Her magical hammer. But again, the show does bring the point that the only way to move forward in this world is to be able to put that down and find a reason for more. Or so we've seen is the case, but maybe there's a level past that. I don't know. Yeah. To deal with an enemy that can't be reasoned with.
Where's that from?
Allegories from time immemorial, from biblical stuff. I don't know.
Here's a side question. What do you think is going to happen with Hardwick and Talking Dead?
Okay, so we'll broach this one. I know for a fact one thing, in that you know the company that he founded?
Yeah.
They've already ousted him from that. So there's that. I've heard that AMC has kind of severed ties with him as the host. So beyond that, I don't know what's going to happen. Now, it would make a lot of sense for them to replace him quickly, and I wouldn't make the new host say what happened to the old host. I would just pretend that something didn't happen. But on the side, obviously publicly, outside the show, say something publicly. Say, hey, we see the value in this show. We wouldn't want it to be a situation where we lost the ability for people to have this moment after the show to be able to process things, etc., etc.
Who would replace him? If you were to replace him,
it's so funny because
Kevin Smith.
No, well, that would be a good save. Did you just think of that now?
Yes.
Oh my god! Because I actually had this. That's a bad idea, actually, and I'll tell you why. But it's not a you thing. It's really a Kevin Smith thing. Yeah. But my first instinct was the Jonah, what's his name? From the previous episode, because he had thought of that idea first, if you remember. He mentioned it on the show. He was like, dude, I told you about this idea together when we were watching the show. And you basically stole my idea. I love this show. I introduced you to the show. And then you took this idea from me. Yeah, and so it would be kind of like justice to have him continue the show. But Kevin Smith is a really interesting idea because he's really talkative. He'd ask the good questions. He'd be funny.
Yeah.
And it would be a good idea for him, too, because he's been really trying to reformat his life, and it might really bring out some good questions. But here's why it's a bad idea. Kevin Smith is a talkative motherfucker. So much so that I saw him at Carnegie Hall when he did his not like a spoken word, but like a night with Kevin Smith. This was way back, like I think gotta be 10 years ago. Close to. It was awesome, but like the fact that one man can stand up there and tell stories for 2 hours straight and ask questions, answer questions, it's amazing.
Wow.
And it's just him talking. It's barely scripted. I'm sure he has an idea of where he wants to go, but then he just keeps going.
God, it's so funny.
And it's like a known thing, like on his podcast, he just keeps going on, and it's not bad. I'm just saying it would be bad on a formatted television show where you have to kind of stick strictly. You see Chris, he's already talking fast enough it is to try to get the commercials. Yeah,
it's obviously they're obviously on a very tight time crunch, and they have to stick to the script. Like, okay, we got to move on to the next thing, keep it moving. Yeah. So it has to be somebody who understands that. This is basically a talk show, and you have to kind of like hit those points because we got to cover this.
Yeah. Another thing that's that's occurring to me as we talk about this is that I think they would have to change the set too.
Oh, really?
I know it sounds very weird to say that, but it has to suit the host. It has to make sense with the host that's actually going to take charge.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So,
there's some sort of tweaking that would have to be done at least.
Yeah. And it would have to be by somebody who's watched the show, that has thought about hosting the show, and would probably has ideas on how to change
It would have to be somebody who's, it would have to be somebody who's already invested in the world of comic books, the show itself. It has to be.
I just thought of who it might be.
Who?
And it's a really bad idea, but I think it would be so, not off-putting, but so out of left field.
Oh, God, who?
That it would totally work to distract people from the fact that Chris Hardwick isn't doing the show anymore. Michael Rooker. What a holy shit moment that would be.
That would be amazing. And I would watch
religiously. Crazy.
He's crazy. He's batshit crazy.
Yeah.
But he'll come back in in the drop of a hat. He'll come back. Like he's still super involved. He goes to all the conventions.
Oh,
he comes back every time that they do things, on the show. He would be. I'd watch.
And you know what else?
I'm not sure what the hell's going to come out of his mouth.
Oh, exactly. Well, yeah. It would be like the shit show of the best variety. But that's the thing. The one thing that I think people don't understand about Michael Rooker is he's not a one-trick pony. This guy is a B actor veteran. Like, he's been in so much.
He was in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's been in a lot of different things.
Oh, yeah. And like throughout time, he's played really, he was in Henry. That was his claim to fame, like in the 80s. Portrait of a Serial Killer, right? And like from then on, he's been like not underground, but like in like the B actor in good films and like the star in like bad films. Like, so he's had his moment. He's very prolific. In fact, I'm wondering if there's like, I mentioned them before, No Small Parts. I actually reposted one of the things about Lenny James and how he mentions him on The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. And No Small Parts, Michael Hardesty, or I think his name is Michael Hardesty, I'll have to look that up. His whole claim to fame on YouTube was focusing on these B actors that you wouldn't give a second look, that have really almost no name in some respects. I'm wondering if he has one on Michael Rooker, or if he would do one on Michael Rooker, even if it's one of the smaller ones like Lenny James, because I would be really interested to see his filmography and how he came to be, honestly. So he's such a good choice.
Yeah.
Like, such a bad choice, but such a good choice.
That would be amazing.
Amazing. Do you have one more in the chamber?
God,
for possible host?
God, we got Kevin Smith, Michael Rooker. You know what the thing is? It's really funny.
Oh, wait, I get it. Hold on. Andrew Lincoln.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? No.
Yeah, he's going to do it from England, duh. I mean, he needs to be close to his family, right?
The funny thing is that it's kind of interesting how it is and it isn't an easy role to fill. In the sense,
you mean Talking Dead?
Yeah, in the sense of in Chris Hardwick's position, because I think the thing that he brought to the table as a host of a show, and you're bringing people on and you're interviewing them, it's about your guests. So you have to almost sort of, I don't want to say blend into the background, but you have to not monopolize, kind of like what you were saying before with Kevin Smith. You have to be able to not monopolize and allow these people to basically shine and showcase their work and showcase whatever the topics are that are being discussed. And it's not so much about you. You're just the vehicle and the conduit for what's being expressed.
Right.
And Chris Hardwick is not a man of huge stature, which works in this sense, and he's also very everyman-ish, I guess. You know what I mean? Like he's a very, it's almost like putting a fan up there and interviewing these guests. And that's kind of the air that he brought to that role, where it was almost as if you were to take any one of us, not exactly, but kind of, because we're not Michael Rooker.
Right. And Michael Rooker would be a little too larger than life in some fashion.
In some fashion, I would, but I would be tuning in for him, not for
Right, exactly.
Like,
You'd be tuning in for the shit show.
Right. I'd be tuning into what the hell is Michael Rooker going to say this week? But like that's what I would be tuning in for, and it would take away from this panel of guests.
Right. And we watch because he's an appreciator of the show. He's on our side watching the show, wanting to know more.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, he kind of acts as like a representative for like fans.
Right.
And that's what works about that setup.
Right.
So as much as I may think like, Michael Rooker or whatever, it's like you kind of need somebody who is basically like a super fan, who's a comic book reader, and who wants to kind of keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
And foster those kind of like discussions. It's not easy, which is the tricky part.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that's the hard part of maybe bringing in somebody from, let's say, the show. Like T-Dog, you've got so many people that have moved on from this show's mortal coil that you could bring back to host the show, anybody. And you could maybe make a case for possibly seeing a guest host every week, you know, previously departed. But then again, it loses the consistency, the thread. You'd have to get used to the show's format and be able to do it in a certain amount of time. It's a lot of work. And the thing that Hardwick got over time, because I don't think it was exactly, I think part of what put people off about Hardwick in the first place is that I don't think he got his rhythm until well into his first season, maybe not even until his second season. Because I remember watching it and I remember it was like, oh, I don't need to watch this. But then I remember giving it a second chance. I'm like, oh, wow, this is actually really good. You know, I didn't like it at first. I think a lot of people didn't like it at first.
I'm sure.
And they still stuck with that opinion, you know, and then they didn't really give it another chance. But I think after certain things happened on the show, maybe season 5 or 6, I think they kind of needed it.
Yeah.
And then they found out, lo and behold, he's actually pretty good at it now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's what we're going to miss, is that consistency. So it's going to have to be somebody who is a watcher, probably not have been on the show, as much of a nerdist, which, by the way, now I just remembered his company, Nerdist. Yeah, it would have to be somebody like that. Somebody invested in the show, but also not part of the show, but will eventually have, like, you know, a little toe dip so that they can get some of the inside information from AMC and all that. Yeah, it's going to be a tough call. Yeah, I don't really know what to think. But, I mean, hey, maybe we'll think of a top, I don't know, top 3 list of who it could be from the show that has left and whittle it down and give the reasons. That could be something we can do.
Yeah, I think so.
Justify your existence. So, with that being said, I think we're going to call it a very fulfilling night. I actually cannot wait for the back half of Fear the Walking Dead. That we left off on such an interesting note.
Yes.
And we have this entire group together now with all their dynamics and walkers in the wind and
Sharknado.
And I wonder where this will go from here.
Yeah.
And how we'll get to The Walking Dead.
We are marching towards something.
Yeah. Hopefully it's something huge.
I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Me too. So with that, everybody, let's march on. And we'll see you. Actually, as we'll see you when we see you. If there's any news, we'll just do a short episode or two.
And I'm sure we will. We should definitely have one after the trailer comes out.
Oh, God, for sure.
Because, you know, we're going to be, like, analyzing that thing.
Oh, my God. To death.
To death.
We may even, I don't know, we may even format it in a way where we watch it with you. We do a pause thing, like a live watch thing. Because our whole thing is that I think we want to start moving on to more live shows.
Interactive.
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
And this is something we could definitely have viewer feedback on. And we can talk about, and we can bore you to death with afterwards on our ideas. Because you don't have a show, we do.
Yeah, that's how we do.
It's the perk. So, with that, everybody, we will see you soon.
See you next time.